There are two types of business owners, those who are busy and those who want to be busy. Toast is designed for both, with tools to keep you humming and help turn grind into growth. That's how you turn busy into business. Toast, built for busy.
With the World Cup, they're taking on Paraguay. Is that even a country? Thinking of, is that some type of margarine? Anyway, we're going to be your antidote to the World Cup propaganda going on and on and on. I feel so sorry for the people at Fox Sports. Poor little Colin Cowherd, the NBA Finals, great game ever, NHL, Stanley Cup, Hurricanes win, and all it is about the World Cup. And look, we hope that it's successful. We were breaking it down yesterday that it wasn't. But you never know. As Bo just told me, Team USA wins a few, and all of a sudden everybody's kicking the soccer ball or the matches or the home soil. Does that sound American to you? Well, we'll find out. Anyway, your chance to win tickets to the Boise Music Festival. You know, we're almost 2 weeks away from the big one. Next week, the Snake River Stampede will return to the Buckaroo Breakfast, not 1 but 2 days. Looking forward to that, seeing everybody there. And it's always such a wonderful experience being in Nampa, Idaho for the Buckaroo Breakfast. We'll take your calls between now and 10 o'clock. And remember, caller 10 at 580-KIDO. You're going to win tickets to the Boise Music Festival. Obviously, what broke overnight, the president says, oops, I did it again. No, he didn't blow up the Iranians, but he did get another deal. The liberals say it's not a deal. The haters say it's not a deal. Oil prices going down, the stock market going up. Haven't we been here before? So we will start with that one. When we think about this new deal, we'll break it down for you and take your calls on it. And you just have to wonder, are we setting ourselves up again and again and again? Let's take a look from Max Gordon here on 580-KIDO.
Peace might be coming to the Persian Gulf with a potential deal between the United States and Iran, but the region remains on edge. U.S. forces reported shooting down 2 Iranian attack drones that were attempting to strike commercial ships in the Strait of Hormuz. This even after President Trump called off strikes scheduled for last night on Iran. President Trump also says that a memorandum of understanding could soon be signed with Iran. Iran's foreign ministry says much of the agreement has been outlined, but nothing is currently finalized. According to reporting from Bloomberg, a signing ceremony could come as early as Sunday in Geneva, Switzerland. In Dubai, Max Gordon, Fox News.
Dubai, a great place to visit, I suppose. But the big issue here is whether or not the Israelis will sign off on it, whether or not the Iranians will sign off on it. And apparently we just had to shoot down 2 more Iranian drones last night. Now, the president, can't really blame the president for wanting to getting a deal and getting the heck out of there. And if you could get a deal, the bottom line would be, hey, this is great, this is wonderful, we've taken down the Iranian defenses, we've set them back, blah, 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 blah. But if we've had to bribe them to do it, it's going to be a challenge, or is it?
We ended the war with Iran today, and they have agreed never to have a nuclear weapon, something that we insisted on. That was the whole purpose. That was 95% of it, and they've done it in the most powerful way you can do it.
There we have it. And by the way, to all the World Cup fans, let's give you a preview of day 1 of the World Cup. I just have to think, the Lee Joes, the Dylans, the Tea Party Bobs, are they really down with the World Cup?
Team USA will begin its quest for a World Cup tonight in front of their home fans at Los Angeles Stadium as the team faces Paraguay in its opening contest. These 2 squads faced each other in a friendly last November, which saw benches clear in stoppage time. It should lead to a great opening contest in this World Cup, with the Americans trying to silence the critics. Star Christian Pulisic told reporters Thursday that he knows what his team is capable of.
We're a really good team. We're able to compete with anyone, and we want to be a real force in this tournament.
Kickoff is scheduled for 9 p.m. Eastern on Fox. Tony Genualdo, Fox News.
Well, and Fox has put a lot of money into this, so we'll see if it's a ratings draw. But again, what is a friendly? I don't really know what a friendly is. But the world is talking about Mideast peace and the World Cup. I'd like to start with something that is unfortunate. And it, you couldn't really escape the euphoria about involving the New York Knicks. And I know that we have a lot of Spurs fans, my man Rocky, sorry Rocky, and other people that are going, once again, the West gets hosed. It's just a New York-centric, East Coast biased world that we live in. So after the game, Jerry Seinfeld and Larry David, both Jewish people, both very successful, Jerry Seinfeld has been to Boise many times, entertaining people. And Jerry stays out of politics. So Jerry's walking down the street, and I don't even know if Jerry has security, but he should, because you have people that are looking to attack him. And this guy comes up to him and goes, "Hey, Jerry, how about a free Palestine?" And Jerry goes, "It doesn't exist." Now remember, Jerry Seinfeld, Jewish guy, Jerry Seinfeld, obviously it's a very sensitive topic to Jerry. So, and again, you had some guy on the street, all of a sudden, he puts it on the tube, he puts it on Twitter, he puts it on X, and it becomes a big story. So then here we have somebody deciding to advance the story, i.e. TMZ, with Ilhan Omar, who's got enough problems of her own. By the way, it's fascinating to me that, just one comment can cause this ripple, but it tells us a lot about Congresswoman Omar.
It's good to see you.
Good to see you.
Hey, Jerry Seinfeld has said again last night, Palestine doesn't exist. Do you think that's dangerous rhetoric for someone with such a big platform?
I mean, Jerry Seinfeld has been really horrific human being and an example when it comes to talking about the reality of the genocide that Israel has carried out. And I think...
Remember, this is a woman that didn't declare the October 7th killings an outrage. Had no reaction to it. So I love how they position this thing. And Omar, it's almost like that doll, and I don't even know if they have dolls anymore where you pull the string. Hey, Omar, what do you have to say? I think Jerry Seinfeld's a despicable person. Jerry Seinfeld, the comedian, who was asked about a free Palestine, and he said it doesn't exist, and was really uncomfortable, really was just walking away. And here we have Omar going into full dictator mode. Of course, she doesn't say that about the mullahs in Iran that kill 40,000 people. She doesn't say that about other people. What she says this about America's most beloved comedian. And basically it was some jobber jabroni on the street going, "Hey, Jerry, what do you think of this?" It doesn't exist. Jerry just kept walking. Yet here you would think that Seinfeld, according to Omar, is Saddam Hussein. And it shows you the social media world that we live in and how people can gin something up just to gin something up. And really, you're going to ask her about, and Jerry Seinfeld, you'd think Jerry Seinfeld was running some of the head of North Korea.
When people prioritize their own people in the interest of harming others, it's very dangerous. And I don't even think of him as like just a celebrity and someone who has a platform in that danger, but it is dangerous just as a human being to talk the way that he does. It's very disgusting, it's very disturbing, and it's very genocidal language that he uses.
Genocidal language. So, first of all, did she even hear it? Jerry, and again, it shows you in this world, and this is how people do, get riled up and get going. He was walking on the street, and if you have ever, there's a great article in the New York Times Magazine years ago about Jerry Seinfeld. In fact, when he comes into a building, and I'm sure the people in Boise can tell you, you're not to talk to him. He doesn't want anybody talking to him. He doesn't want anybody bothering him. It's very specific. He's alone in his thoughts, a true artist. It isn't like, "Hey, Jerry, how about that episode?" No. It's very rigid rules. Jerry comes in on his plane, Jerry performs, then Jerry goes home. You would think that he was a talk radio host, the way genocidal language. So again, let me put it to you this way. And you ever been involved in, a lot of us happens all the time, especially in emails, especially with cars. It's always something over nothing, right? Somebody is tailgating us or somebody is driving very slow. I'm always one to assume that. Why is this person driving 20 in a 45? They must be trying to stick it to me. Oh no, they're just incompetent. Okay? So sometimes you got to give people the benefit of the doubt. The guy is walking away and just some guy on the street says something. And now we're condemning him, saying he doesn't have a platform. Well, no, he doesn't have to because Jerry's successful. He doesn't need the social media stuff. He did it the old-fashioned way, in nightclubs, in concert halls, on television.
And people need to call him out for it.
Do you think like people hear words he says and like they kind of, get into their own brains as well? Like, do you think it has an impact, someone of his stature saying such things?
It does, because it carries weight. So many people are able to see it and hear it. And I'm assuming he is of Jewish heritage.
Yeah, I think so. I believe so.
And for him knowing that his people suffered the Holocaust and experienced what genocide looks like, for him not to recognize the genocidal language that he's using to wipe out a whole group of people is very...
By the way, are you Palestinian? No, she's not. She's not Palestinian. But Omar blasting poor Jerry. So what does that really say to all of us? It says that stay away from politics. Stay away from politics because it's toxic. It's not about furthering a discussion. It's about getting a click. Getting a click. We all want to click. It's funny. You take a look at clicking and everything else, scrolling. We've become slaves to the scroll. And if you haven't, if you're a real man, a real woman, God bless you for not becoming a slave to the scroll. Because the scroll leads to nowhere. The scroll leads to the abyss. The scroll leads to... Nobody wants that. Nobody wants to be a slave to the scroll. But here we are. We're at Big Mike's or Jersey Mike's or Timmy and Mike's, Lone Star Steakhouse, McDonald's, getting some DoorDash, delivering DoorDash. And we have to wait. So what do? We get on the phone and we scroll. And what do we have to look forward to? Let's get something outrageous. This doesn't move the needle, does it? No, it really doesn't. Coming up next, James Talrico says, I'm a man. You notice a theme today for this program? I'm a man. Don't question me and say I'm not a man. So we'll talk a little bit about that. Also, yesterday we were at Peak Health, Idaho, and we finally did the baseline test. And it was a long process, a 4-hour process, but what a great process. Blood test, massive amounts of blood tests, the DEXA body scan, the VO2 max, the strength test as we get ready. As you know, I've lost 116 pounds without any drugs. We're going to continue. The only drugs I have are the ones that regulate my heart. So with that in mind, we're going to continue to try to lose more weight with Dr. Eric Lyle. As my man Rome, or my video guy, great guy, Rome and I are documenting this. He goes, boy, this is a great place. Went to the gym. And like I said, if you're looking to find out how much your bone density you have left, how much visceral and non-visceral body fat you have, on a plan to make yourself better, peakhealthidaho.com. Our great friends, Dr. Eric Lyle and staff. Beverly, really appreciate Beverly. I'm a hard poke when it comes to getting the blood, and she did an excellent job yesterday. So this portion of the program brought to you by our friends at Treasure Valley Subaru. They're always looking for you because, let's face it, with the economy, you want to make sure you get a good, reliable vehicle, and that's Subaru. What about a pre-owned Subaru? How about this? Do you want to know the most popular vehicles people are shopping for right now in Idaho? The Toyota RAV4, the Toyota Corolla, the Honda CR-V, the Honda Civic, the Ford F-150, and the Toyota Tacoma. And you know where you can find every one of those? At the Idaho Center Pre-Owned Superstore at Treasure Valley Subaru. Big Rob knows what people are looking for, so he sends his buyers out to find the most in-demand vehicles and keep them in stock. And when you buy from the Idaho Center Pre-Owned Superstore, you can buy with confidence because every vehicle goes through the Treasure Valley Service Center for a complete inspection before it goes on the lot. Now, here's something that's even more popular with used car buyers, Subaru Outbacks and Subaru Foresters. Treasure Valley Subaru has 29 certified pre-owned Subarus in stock right now. And, so what, Kevin Miller? Did you know every one of them is backed by a 7-year, 100,000-mile factory warranty, giving you extra peace of mind long after you drive away? So if you're shopping for a better used vehicle, start at Treasure Valley Subaru, the Idaho Center Pre-Owned Superstore, Treasure Valley Trucks, and the Treasure Valley Service Center. I keep saying the Idaho Center Auto Mall, but that's next, and Treasure Valley Subaru online. Please tell them Kevin Miller sent you and allow them to continue their great work for charity. Phone numbers here, 580-5436, 580-KIDO. We have a peace deal, but tensions are still running amok in the Persian Gulf. We'll talk about it next. Kevin Miller, 580-KIDO.
The first full-length trailer for the Little House on the Prairie reboot is here, with Netflix calling it part hopeful family drama, part epic survival tale, and part origin story of the American West. The streamer is set to offer its own take on Laura Ingalls Wilder's beloved semi-autobiographical Little House books.
I've seen entire families freeze to death out here. Get taken by a fever, wolves.
In the trailer, the traveling Ingalls family is shown attempting to settle on the American frontier, but they soon learn the challenges and tensions that exist. Season 1 of Little House on the Prairie premieres on Netflix July 9th. Michelle Polino, Fox News.
There we have it. We appreciate that. Remaking Little House on the Prairie is nothing sacred anymore. Is nothing sacred. If you're just waking up, the president says there is a peace deal. His critics, not abroad but home, say there isn't. With the details, let's go to Doug Lazater. I like that name, Doug Lazater. Doug.
We may be closing in on a deal, but the conflict to one degree or another seems to go on, and it looks like the U.S. military had to once again come to the defense of ships in the region. According to a senior U.S. official, it appears Iran has attempted to strike commercial ships transiting the Strait of Hormuz tonight. U.S. forces shot down 2 Iranian one-way attack drones. Traffic flow through the strait continues, but the president did pull back from another round of airstrikes on Iran that were set to happen last night. He called them off after saying once again that a deal was at hand.
Let's go to Al in Ontario. Now, Al, I was talking to a young lady yesterday, and she said, I love your show, Kevin Miller. It's great, but I turn it off when Big Al comes on because he drives me crazy. I said, well, sorry to hear that.
Well, hey, it's good. It's good because, listen, a lot of people, they can just not really live up to the truth. They don't have the ability to comprehend the truth. And, ignoramuses need to go find something else. Go look at your liberal shows. But first, real quick, Blair talked about inflation yesterday, and he didn't say a word about the quantity theory of money, Milton Friedman. And Milton Friedman said that inflation always and everywhere is a monetary phenomena. If you're going to talk inflation, you got to talk cost push, demand pull inflation, which he doesn't understand that, nor does he understand disinflation, deflation, or anything else. So I would just tell Blair, look, I love you, man, but just go back to the books and study. And you can't say that, this inflation is just like not technically inflation. Unless
Blair says that you're wrong and you don't know what you're talking about, buddy.
No, he doesn't. You're what you're doing is you're making things up out of midair. Kevin, you always make things up out of midair. Just like you said, you go to the gym and they close the gym down for an hour and a half during the day, during the lunchtime period. They close down the sauna, the steam room, the shower. No, they don't. Tell us which gym that is.
Idaho Fitness Factory. Idaho Fitness Factory. They do it to clean it. Yeah, they do it on all their great locations. Yeah, buddy.
Okay, so they close it down.
I guess I wasn't making that up now, wasn't I?
No, what I'm trying to do is figure out, because I did my investigation. Okay, do they close it down for an hour and a half during the lunchtime every single day?
They close it down to clean the men's room. Sometimes that takes 30 minutes. Sometimes that takes 40 minutes, and then they have the sauna in the men's locker room.
Okay, so every day they close it down for. See, this is what I'm saying.
They
Kevin.
they close it to clean it, Al. I've said this before. Now your fixation with the Air Force and they close down the sauna, keeping you from the boys, is projecting onto factual statements that I've made.
No, what I'm saying is this, okay? When you look at a totally failed organization that, closes down something when they don't have to, like the Air Force gym, they close down the locker room, the shower, the sauna, and the steam room for an hour every single day for no reason during the duty day, during the lunchtime period. Okay, well, you can extrapolate on that. Okay, you extrapolate and say, okay, if there are failures there, what about crashing planes together? Okay, I mean, look, you can extrapolate failure. Okay, just like you can extrapolate these crazy generals and admirals, these DEI admirals and generals who have totally destroyed, the whole concept of having a great workforce. What they've done is they've built a DEI failed workforce where if somebody says the wrong word, just like with Seinfeld there, right? Oh, you say everybody goes up in arms. Why? Because we balkanized our country. Okay, and so what they've done, they've built this.
And remember, you heard that reporter from TMZ just trying to antagonize Omar. Didn't really have to do much to do that.
What I'm saying is we've built a balkanized nation, okay, because the legal victim grievance hate industrial complex.
And for those of us that don't understand what that means, share that for us, would you?
Basically what it is, it's the entire deep state with all the legal mechanisms where if somebody says the wrong word, okay, now all of a sudden, oh, well, you said this, I have these immutable characteristics, you said something, so now I'm going, you get sued, something happens where we spend all this money, and we really, we can't do anything correctly anymore. We can't make ships, Look at 60 Minutes, the collapse of the U.S. shipbuilding poses national economic security risk. Go look at that on YouTube, okay? And what Leslie Stahl says at the end, she says, we can't build our own ships and we have to go to Korea. Should we be ashamed of ourselves? Should we feel weak? Yes, Leslie, yes, because the fools in America have continued to vote for the same losers who put these failed generals and admirals into positions for decades and decades. Now we can't build ships anymore. Not only that, we can't build windmills. We can't build solar panels. We can't build our own.
Welcome to the welcome everyone to the We Can't show from Al. We can't do anything. We can't tie our shoes. We can't do this. This is so uplifting,
right,
Al.
That's right, but we can support China because they're making chains that are proportional for each and every one of your kids and grandkids. So, yeah, keep on voting for all those people with the titles that you love, Kevin. Okay, you love all these people. Okay, oh, yeah, well, they got this title. Oh, I'll never ask you a difficult question.
Like who? Like who, Al? Like who?
Like your buddies there, Simpson. Okay, you don't ask Simpson tough questions. Okay, why is when's
the last time we've had anybody on, Al? We don't have anybody on anymore. You know why? Because certain people on the far right have ruined our ability to have guests on. Do you want to know the truth? Do you want to know the truth, Al? That's the truth. All these people that all they do is criticize and all they do is attack, so they've ruined it. So you know what, Al? We're going to have you on, and you're going to carry the show. Good luck, Al.
Well, here we go, bro. Hey, guess what? You got the truth, my friend. So it just shows. Maybe you do have more credibility than I thought because you let the truth on. You see, the scumbags, okay, these ones who have been losing and losing and losing in our nation for so long, and now we can't build ships. We can't build anything, hardly.
Well, Donald Trump says we're building ships. Donald Trump says we're building everything. And by the way, why are you listening to CBS? That's just a liberal mouthpiece.
Look at what Donald Trump is doing is he's trying to project power, which is his job, and he has to try and do that, and particularly in this crazy nation where pop culture and getting on the bandwagon and not using the truth and not pointing out truthful aspects.
I agree, Al. Thank you for the call. I think we're much better off when we just had American Bandstand, everybody. This portion, in spirited debate, Al, thank you. This portion of the program brought to you by our friends at Treasure Valley Subaru. Check them out today. Great deals over the weekend. Let's get you to work safely and on time. 580.
And we tried to deal with these issues, and we could not get the Democrats to get on the same page with us about illegal immigration, about stopping the inflow of illegal immigration. Some of these people that are coming that we don't even know, we haven't vetted who they are. They're bringing their bad ideas. They're bringing their ideologies. They're bringing their terroristic tendencies to the United States. We just had a family man, a father here in Idaho, died just yesterday. I think it was yesterday in a car crash that happened because of an illegal alien in the state of Idaho. We need to make sure that we're protecting families, we're protecting the future of the United States, and we need to get a hold of this. You know, the president has done a great job of stopping the inflow. Now it's time to get rid of the people that are here.
There we have it from Newsmax yesterday. Ed Henry, our great friend, the crime fighter, Raul Labrador, the Attorney General, speaking about this, speaking about a case that nobody knows about. Nobody is talking about. Nobody is talking about except on conservative Twitter, where you have person here illegally, car accident, quoting the Attorney General. My prayers are with the Vasquez family and every Idahoan touched by this tragedy that never should have happened. Is a tragic reminder of what unchecked illegal immigration actually costs and why Idaho must keep fighting to protect its people. My mistake. The Idaho Statesman did have this. Police Idaho man who died in Idaho crash. 3 kids injured. Driver arrested. This happened in Caldwell, leaving 1 person dead, sent 4 to the hospital, where a 28-year-old Guatemalan man, doesn't say that he's an American, was driving a pickup truck west on East Linden Street when he failed to stop at a stop sign at the South Kimball Avenue intersection at 9:20 and collided with a sedan, according to the Idaho State Police, saying in a news release. By the way, let's take a look at that poor little girl that died on Harrison Boulevard. Media didn't really talk about the person here illegally. Did they? Now, family man killed in Caldwell. The sedan driver died at the scene while the 3 juveniles and the pickup driver were taken by ambulance to a local hospital. The Canyon County coroner identified the deceased as 35-year-old Miguel Vasquez of Caldwell. The coroner's office said he died from injuries and an autopsy will be conducted to determine the extent of the injuries. Our deepest sympathies go out to the family and friends during this difficult time. Law enforcement later arrested the pickup driver. Canyon County jail records show Idaho State Police booked a man on vehicular manslaughter charges at 12:50 a.m. Idaho State Police are investigating the incident. The agency was assisted on the scene by the Canyon County paramedics, the Caldwell Police Department, and the Caldwell Fire Department. So maybe the Guatemalan man was here legally. But apparently, he's a Guatemalan man, and that's all we have from it. We don't have whether ICE was contacted, whether ICE should have been contacted. And we have that from, and if you follow certain people on Twitter, you're going to get that. And that was from the Attorney General's Twitter handle. So going back to what the Attorney General said, and this is the not fascinating, very frustrating battle that we have in Idaho. You have conservative legislators, primarily from California, primarily from other places, coming into Idaho and saying, you don't want to live where I've lived, and I'm going to do everything I can to make it stop. Some would say they're flamboyant, provocative, opinionated. In Idaho, we like our toast without any butter on it. We like it plain. We like to just kind of live and let live. That's why the liberals have that strong undercurrent in the city of Boise. However, at 580-5436-580-KIDO, when we're looking at crime and what's happening and what's being ignored, and then you have conservative critics that will criticize law enforcement because you've had law enforcement in Homedale, I believe in Caldwell and Canyon County, Ada County, saying, well, we don't want to cooperate with ICE. We already do cooperate with ICE. Don't make us cooperate with ICE because we're going to upset the Hispanic community. Now, the Hispanic community, they want people here illegally? I don't think so. All that does is it's a divider. And as I've said before, the people were very successful in killing any type of illegal immigration reform. In the legislature, 14 bills proposed, all shut down. Why don't we do this? Let's give you those the chance to win tickets to the Boise Music Festival. That's right, caller 10 at 580-5436-580-KIDO. And as I said before, there are people that, do wonderful things. And again, props to Channel 7 for the St. Jude's home giveaway. Remarkable. Channel 7, their footprint isn't what it once was. And look, the only reason why I bring that up is because their footprint was pretty dominant for many, many years. But to do the St. Jude's Dream Home Giveaway is still remarkable. And it was nice to see that. It was nice to see so many people out there and so many people giving to help cancer kids and cancer research at St. Jude. So we give those props. Other people, they'll put on events. They'll charge you money for it. But there is one group in all of radio and all of television, all of the state of Idaho, I would say in all of America, that gives you the opportunity to go see Marshmello, Sean Paul, Everclear, the Country Girl, the Korean pop sensation, the Showstoppers, and that is this group right here. Brought to you by the Godless Corporation. Thank you, Godless Corporation. We have events. We bring in Dog the Bounty Hunter. Actually, you do because you come to the events. And as I've broken down on our website, KIDOtalkradio.com, there are ways, very legitimate ways, that you can go see these acts for free. The Spirit of Boise Balloon Classic, Micron, making sure it's free for the next few years. But if you want to win tickets, you have to listen to me. But that's not a big deal. Family 4-pack, we're giving them away now, all the way up to the Boise Music Festival, even next week when we're at the Buckaroo Breakfast. We're giving tickets away. I don't see anybody else doing that. Do you? Just our way of thanking you and thanking all of the people who make that happen. So again, caller 10 at 580-KIDO. Liberal Steve says that he agrees with Al, saying Al is not stupid if you accept his reasoning. And oh yes, by the way, we were talking about the showers. And as I said before, there are a lot of great gyms in the area. Kristen Armstrong with Pivot. I really owe those folks a lot of effort for getting me started on this journey 6-7 years ago. Thank you, Kristen Armstrong. You have Villa Sports that just took over Crunch. You have the Idaho Fitness Factory that is in the short 10 or 15 years. Excellent locations. The place is always clean. And as I said before, they deep clean the locker rooms between noon and 2. And they let you go in if you have to go. So I appreciate that. Congratulations, Nick, not to be confused with Rick, who won earlier in the week. You're our winner. Winner, Garden City dinner. So back to what the crime-fighting attorney general is saying. And really, the crime-fighting attorney general is not too busy, but he's busy keeping kids safe from online predators. He's taking care of other things and warning seniors about the Medicare fraud, the Medicaid fraud. It takes time to go on Newsmax and saying, look, and local people are going to say it's a national issue, but true believers, as we're rolling here at 580-5436-580-KIDO, oh, yeah, we're going to get to this guy in Texas that says he's a man. Don't question his masculinity. He's not the girly man. I know that's a dated reference, but I'm a dated guy. The attorney general is saying, look, you got to do something. Now, in Idaho, and I don't really know what the solution is. Because if you're a big business, you're scared to death. Dairy, schmerry, berry, everything else, you're scared to death. Hospitality, construction, we've heard it all. But really, is this country a multilingual country? Or is it a country where we speak English and we're a unified country? Raul Labrador, one more time from Newsmax.
We do. If you remember, Ed, I was the chairman of the immigration subcommittee when I was in the House, and we tried to deal with these issues, and we could not get the Democrats to get on the same page with us about illegal immigration, about stopping the inflow illegal immigration. Some of these people that are coming that we don't even know, we haven't vetted who they are. They're bringing their bad ideas, they're bringing their ideologies, they're bringing their terroristic tendencies to the United States. We just had a family man, a father here in Idaho, died just yesterday. I think it was yesterday in a car crash that happened because of an illegal alien in the state of Idaho. We need to make sure that we're protecting families, we're protecting the future of the United States, and we need to get a hold of this. You know, the president has done a great job of stopping the inflow. Now it's time to get rid of the people that are here.
Right. And then you have people saying, by the way, that is the Attorney General on Newsmax. If you follow him on X, you can see that post. So here you have the Attorney General saying, we got to do something about it. We have industry people saying, we have to do something about it. You have the president saying, we have to do something about it. Are we going to do anything about it? 580 KIDO. More coming up next. Sean Hannity today at 1 on your home for Hannity. 580 KIDO.
Here in Washington, D.C., there's a Democratic primary for mayor. One of the two leading candidates, Janice Lewis-George, is running a Zoran Mandami campaign. It's focused on socialist policies. How would you feel if she emerges victorious in next Tuesday's?
Well, I wouldn't like it, and maybe we'd take back Washington, run it on the federal basis. We won't put up with it. We're not going to lose our businesses. By the way, Washington now is a safe, beautiful place. We had 22 fountains dug that are all working. Not one of them worked for years, for 25 years, 40 years, 58 years. The pool didn't work from 1928 it was built. It always leaked because it was done in stone. Now it's done properly. It's not going to leak at all. But this is a beautiful place now. People are coming. Restaurants are thriving. The restaurants are all closed. Nobody wanted. Now you can't get restaurant space. You can't get into it. We have a thriving community. We got rid of the crime. We're 92% down on crime.
There we have it. The president talking about what's going on in Washington, D.C., and our old friend John Decker still at it, still doing very, very good work. And, sometimes the president just calls it like he sees it.
You have the governor right here. Governor, have I done a lot for Alaska? Is there anybody done more for Alaska than me?
You've been the best president for Alaska in our history, Mr. President. I've said that many times.
And Murkowski's terrible to us.
So how would you like to be this guy? How would you like to be this guy in Alaska, and you're a senator, you're the governor, and all of a sudden, boom.
Governor, have I done a lot for Alaska? Is there anybody done more for Alaska than me?
You've been the best president for Alaska in our history, Mr. President. I've said that many times.
And Murkowski's terrible to us. Terrible to the country.
Mr. President.
And, I almost feel guilty. I do more, probably done more for Alaska than any other state. Not because of her, because it's the right thing to do. She's just an impediment. But she's there. She probably will be a negative vote. You have a couple of other. I think Rand Paul's come a long way. Let's see what happens. I think Rand Paul likes Save America, because Rand Paul's usually a negative vote. But I think he likes Save America, so that's good. I like Rand Paul, but, I hope he votes for us. Yeah.
More coming up next hour from the President of the United States. Phone numbers here, 580-5436, 580-KIDO. We've been teasing this for quite some time. This guy in Texas, Talrico, they're saying he's a vegan. They're saying, what's up with this guy? Oh, now he's got a girlfriend? Does he go to a steakhouse? Does he do anything? More on that in a minute. First, Boise police continue their search for a missing 12-year-old last seen near 3rd and Front Streets. Boise police are searching for a 12-year-old boy named Seamus, who was last seen running towards Julie Davis Park. He was last seen by family around 12:15 yesterday during the area of 3rd and Front Streets wearing a white shirt and blue shorts. Boise police and their officers are conducting a search of the area and are concerned for his safety. Anyone with information about his whereabouts, call Ada County at 208-377-6790. That's 377-6790. Other big stories that we are taking a look at, not much really. Not much going on locally. We have the Eagle Rodeo going on. A couple weeks, the Meridian Rodeo.
Fox Country.
You can insert whatever word you want. I said encourage.
The Snake River Stampede. And then we have the insurgents there. Let's go to Mr. Talrico, who says he's a man. Hanging out with another man, Jen Psaki, who says she likes men.
But Ted Cruz basically said he wouldn't use the word masculine to describe you. It seems pretty clear what they're trying to do here, at least to me. Not only are they going after you, but they're really trying to attack groups of people you've defended in the past, including trans people and others. What do you make of that?
Yeah, there's been a lot of talk in this race about what it means to be a real man. And recently on the campaign trail, I told the story of my adoptive dad, the man who gave me his last name, the man who raised me as his own. Every Saturday morning, Mark Talarico would mow our lawn. Whether it was rain or shine, whether he wanted to or not, he insisted on mowing our lawn himself. And then without anyone asking him to, he would go next door and mow our neighbor's lawn because our neighbor was elderly. She was a widow. And my dad never talked about it. He just did it because that's what a man does. A man takes responsibility. A man upholds his commitments to his family and his neighbors. A man does what's right, even.
You know, that sounds great, but this is the guy that said there are 6 genders and that God is non-binary. Now, again, you hear this and go, wow, it sounds kind of normal. Until you take a look. He just acquired a girlfriend at 38, 37.
No one is.
Not that there's anything wrong with that.
And here's what real men don't do. They don't lie and cheat their way through life. They don't sell their soul to the highest bidder. They don't steal from other people in order to enrich themselves. And so I've said before, and I will keep saying, that real men serve others. Weak men serve themselves. And so I welcome this debate about what it means to be a man. And I don't think...
it's funny. You have to catch yourself as you're driving around. The war, the taxes, the control, the gender, and he's talking about whether or not he's a man. He identifies as a man, and he's going to be a man. And Jen Psaki, she's married to a man, I believe. She has a couple children, a child. So they're debating, what is a man? Okay, does a man have 6 genders, Mr. Talrico?
Of others. Weak men serve themselves. And so I welcome this debate about what it means to be a man. And I don't think Ken Paxton or Ted Cruz are in a position to tell anybody what a real man is.
Ooh. Well, now we've determined that he's a man. That's what he says, allegedly. Phone number's here, 580-5436, 580-KIDO. Let's get you to work safely and on time. 580-KIDO's traffic. Good morning, Dave.
From the Pacific Steel and Recycling Studios, bright sunshine on the windshield as you travel eastbound this morning. Do have a report of a fire on Highway 16 right near Chinden, so watch your fire crews headed that way for a vegetation fire. Typically Friday's traffic's a little lighter than the rest of the week. Fence and Lumber is your Cedar factory outlet, saving you up to 70% off the big box stores. And now more convenient than ever. Fence and Lumber now open in Cuna. Online at fenceandlumber.com. That's your traffic now. I'm Dave Burnett on KIDO.
All right. And good morning to you, Dave. All right, coming up next hour, the latest from Fox News. Do we have a peace deal or not? I think it depends on who you talk to. We'll talk to you next. Kevin Miller, 580-KIDO. Good morning. Remind everybody as we move along, we'll take your calls and we'll get to our friend Dylan in a minute. Hopefully we'll get to Jeff Manasso. We'll get to you. And again, hear what you have to say about the issues that matter to you. If you missed the first hour of the program, we talked about the illegals. Not only did we talk about the illegals, but we talked about whether or not there's a peace deal and whether or not we're going to continue to have a peace deal. And, oil prices going down. We're getting ready for the big enchilada, if you will, the Elon Musk SpaceX. It's starting out at $135 a share, and I'm sure it'll go up to $1,000 a share and all sorts of share, which will be great, which will be wonderful, which will be exciting. And until it isn't. So we'll do that. We'll give Mr. Manasso one more minute, and then we'll go to Dylan. Dylan, hang on. Okay, well, then we'll go to Mr. Manasso, who joins us now at 580 KIDO. Jeff, always a great time to have you on here at 580 KIDO. Hello, sir.
Good. I'm doing well. Good morning.
Good to have you with us as we get ready for the summer. A lot going on, of course. And where are we going today, sir?
So there was a press briefing yesterday in D.C. where Acting Attorney General Todd Blanche and DHS Secretary Mark Wayne Mullen announced a new coordinated federal effort between the Departments of Justice, DHS, and Health and Human Services to locate and to safeguard unaccompanied migrant children and to investigate alleged fraud, smuggling, trafficking, and abuse involving children related to sponsors here in the U.S. during the previous administration. The president just got that funding package for DHS through the rest of his term. This is going to go a long way toward doing that. But what we heard from these guys is they've got 81,000 addresses where migrant children might be, might not be. Some of them are bogus. They've made some arrests. Many of these sponsors gave false information, and so they have their work cut out for them. And so these efforts that include a government-wide initiative to first identify and locate these kids who may be at risk of trafficking, exploitation, and other harm. Also, new or strengthened screening measures for sponsors, including identity verification. So they want to know who you are. You remember back during the Biden administration, people were coming to the border by the millions, including 500,000 children. And, no documents, no paperwork, but yet you had people coming to the border from the interior saying, yeah, that he's with me, she's with me. Here you go, sir. Here you go, ma'am. And so even the Biden administration said it had trouble tracking these kids. And so they're going to do fingerprint-based background checks. They're going to investigate repeat sponsors and DNA testing in some claimed family relationships. Federal investigators have documented cases in which sponsors they used false identities, they fake family relationships or fraudulent documents to obtain custody of children crossing the border. There was a recent case in Ohio, Kevin, where 3 Guatemalan nationals in the country illegally are charged, accused of smuggling unaccompanied kids and using fraudulent sponsorship information. So it's a tall task, but it's got to be done.
Yeah, and very emotional yesterday during this hearing, during this news conference with former Senator, now Department of Homeland Security Secretary Mark Wayne Mullen and the Attorney General. It was real. It seemed very real yesterday.
Well, some of these kids reported coming all the way up in crossing the border, and while doing that, saying that they'd been raped hundreds of times. And all told, the Trump administration claims that hundreds of thousands of migrant children were inadequately tracked during the previous policies, and that so efforts are underway to now find them. A 2024 DHS Inspector General report found that there were major deficiencies in tracking unaccompanied kids after they left federal custody, including many cases where immigration court notices were not properly issued or attendance could not be verified. The Department of Homeland Security says of the 500,000 kids that are reported missing, migrant children who are reported missing, that since the Trump administration began its second term, that 146,000 children have been located. Democrats are disputing that number.
Jeff Manasso, as always, you've got the difficult ones, but we so appreciate you, sir.
Have a great weekend, Kevin.
You as well, our great friend Jeff Manasso. Let's go to Silly Dilly on 580 KIDO. Dylan from the Great Idaho Show, thegreatidahoshow.com.
Kevin, good morning. Goodness, something to talk about every day here in Idaho, eh? Illegal immigration. I think it comes down to the question that we should all be asking: who benefits? Who's benefiting? As it relates to illegal immigration, well, in Idaho, the ag industry. We're an ag state. That I love and cherish, but who's really benefiting now? The ag industry, maybe, there's an economical impact to the ag industry, and let's say there's a huge economical impact, but what good is it if the economical impact comes at more of a cost? If it costs us $300+ million to support the illegal immigration in this state, what good is it? But really, who benefits in the ag industry? Everybody says it's about the food. If we don't have farmers, we don't have food. Show me at the state level in large ag who's benefiting in Idaho. Yes, it creates jobs, but jobs for who? Who does this create jobs for? Well, it creates jobs for non-citizens. And it's fairly convenient for the ag industry to come out and say that this is who they're benefiting. But when you really look at it, it's wholly benefiting themselves to a pyramid level. Who's at the top of the pyramid? You have ag owners that are at the top of that pyramid, and many of them are in our state government. Who are the people that are large landowners in state government that are supporting ag or running ag that have that are supporting the corporations, the ag corporations that are using illegal immigration? And maybe certainly there are citizens involved, taxpayers involved that are benefiting jobs, things like that. But we were in a state of Idaho where it was a fairly simple program. You had good people and bad people, and good cops and bad cops, and that was pretty easy to sort out. There's corruption in police, and there's corruption in people, but we got to start asking who this is benefiting. Who are the legislators that are voting for illegals to have driver's licenses? Driving is a privilege. A privilege comes to citizens. So why, if you're not a citizen, do you get the privilege of driving? And if you're driving, why do they need these driver's licenses? Well, they got to get to work. And who are they working for? That's
a great point. That's a great point. And you go back to Glenn in Nampa that was hit by an illegal. And what happened? Nothing. The cops let him get away.
Yeah. And so this is a tough one for me. I will always support the office of the sheriff. This isn't about police. This is about constitutionally bound individuals. And I understand that there's a financial issue. This is what it boils down to, is a financial issue as it relates to 287G, especially in your rural counties. Rural Idaho is ag. And when you have rural sheriffs the counties are broke, beyond broke. They can't afford to support 287G. But where are the sheriffs? They have one of the most powerful contingent of people out there.
Wasn't it the sheriffs that said they didn't want to cooperate with ICE, and you defended them?
I still defend the office of the sheriff.
Answer the question. Answer the question.
Well, it's clearly obvious in their actions. A lot of people don't know. A lot of people don't know that, but I remember Dylan, taking us to task, defending his boys, the sheriffs, for not wanting to help ICE with getting rid of the illegals. It's one of those things where you convert your resources to get involved and support it. And you get it done. And if you can't get it done, you use the pulpit and get your donkey out there and start talking about it. The sheriffs have a very, very powerful voice, and maybe they're saying why they can't, but they're not coming out and saying, but we should. I want to do this. I want to be involved. I'm limited by this. What are they limited by? Well, they're scared. Honestly, the organization of the whole thing is, I hate to say it, they're scared because they won't get a seat at the table. Well, you already don't. The sheriffs have been blocked. And why? Well, we've got big ag in control of our state government, but we got to ask who it's benefiting. The benefiting is in a pyramid form. It's benefiting a very low percentage of singular individuals that are all humongous landowners. And then you really look at it, and there's certain very powerful representatives that are large landowners that are like benefiting in developments all over the Treasure Valley in some cases, where their land just so happens to be in the next land development. And you look at the construction industry, who is entirely supporting the illegal immigration situation, and they're getting away with it more than the ag industry, because ag is not for profit. Ag is one of the greatest examples of socialism that I can see in the state of Idaho, because ag does not support itself. So we must subsidize ag. But construction, you're an ag landowner, and then all of a sudden it's going to turn into an interchange and a large development. And I have to give Theo Wold credit about a question that he asks. We subsidize ag with tax dollars so they can keep this operation running, all up to the point where a generational landowner transitions their property into not ag, which is development, and all these tax dollars that went to them for this whole time to keep them up and running, all of a sudden getting turned into personal profit without rebate back to the taxpayer for having supported them in their failed mission this entire time. I don't believe that large ag is actually putting food on the table here in Idaho. They're putting food on the table in China.
Now wait a minute. What you say in theory and schmeary is all nice and dandy, and we appreciate you giving us a history lesson. However, when you have the big money interests of ag, of hospitality, of construction, of development come in, and they say, we need the illegals, you have the people that they're beholden to, the legislators saying, sure, we're going to make sure that we don't pass any illegal legislation. And you know what? 14 bills, and they didn't. But there's another way of dealing with people here, and I don't think that a lot of people have figured that out yet. I know I haven't figured it out yet. You can be right, but if you don't say it the right way, you ain't going anywhere, partner.
It's not about being right. It's about asking the questions. It's about putting the dots together about who benefits truly. Does Idaho benefit from illegal immigration? The argument would be, well, our ag industry wouldn't be able to support itself. Nobody really asks about construction, just as important, just as valid, but construction gets a little slip behind the back there. But who does it really, truly benefit? If it's about food, show me where the food in Idaho is coming back to tables in Idaho. If it's about money, show me where the money is going. And if it's coming to this wonderful ag Idaho economy, well, if the cost of the support for illegals is lost in the supporting of the illegals, then it's a net zero. And then you have the social byproduct of it, which is people be dying in auto accidents or kids being raped or other really terrible crimes, if you've grown up in rural Idaho and you recognize that rural Idaho is the Wild West, and what that means is the Wild West means you're out there in the middle of nowhere, and when seconds count, the police are only minutes or hours away.
In other words, nobody's coming to rescue you, partner.
Pretty much. And who benefits? The state of Idaho. And this is a tough one for me. I believe in the concept of the conservative Republican Party. But there is a difference between the concept and actions. And there's actions and concepts.
Well,
and if you're gonna
you got to wonder, what have they done? I don't know. Maybe they've done a lot. Got me.
Well, it goes back to what I said. It's good people and bad people, citizens, good cops and bad cops, citizens. And now we've sliced it up in so many ways that nobody can protect all of the channels. In the football analogy, you've got a front line, and now our front line used to be, like 4 or 6, and now there's 24 or 47, and there's channels all the way through it. But in the backside of it, there is a pyramid of benefactors, and the only way to figure out who's in the pyramid is to ask the questions. And when you start asking questions, just ask me, you'll know. The weight of those at the top of the pyramid will use every dollar and resource to destroy you, not based on the concept of whether you're asking a good question. They will.
Oh, no, you're right about that, Dylan. Thank you for the call. Don't forget your chance to win tickets to the Boise Music Festival at 580-5436, 580-KIDO. Uh-oh, Greg Frere, uh-oh. Empty seat seen at World Cup game after controversy over ticket prices. FIFA reported a near-capacity crowd in Guadalajara, Mexico, but images show large pockets of unoccupied seats. I don't think we'll get that on Fox television. A couple of other things going on locally. Just taking a look at some of the TV stations' websites, what they're working on. And here we go. Idaho's own witnesses describe gap in abortion law as doctors' challenge continues. 2 doctors, 1 patient, as Idaho defended its abortion laws in court. Its own witnesses and the doctors suing split over the law that lets them intervene. By the way, we're still waiting for David Ripley, Brandy Swindell, and others from the pro-life community to be given equal time on any local Idaho or Boise media outlet. And then another interesting thing, you ever been in detention? You ever been in-school suspension? Apparently, there's a problem. We'll tell you about it next. Kevin Miller, 580-KIDO. Don't forget your chance to win tickets to the Boise Music Festival. Really looking forward to seeing everybody there and giving you a chance to win that family 4-pack this hour and, primarily every hour. And like I said, whether it's here or our friends at KISS FM or any of the other Town Square stations, we have people out at events. When you see them, chances are you're going to get a chance to win tickets to the Boise Music Festival. And just looking it over, let's take a look at some of the acts that are going to be in Boise. We have a wonderful, wonderful preview of this on our website, KIDOTalkRadio.com. We have Julia Cole, an up-and-coming country act. We have MTKO. I was going to say Miko, but it's MTKO. Eve 6, Everclear, the KIDO Talk Radio audience. Thank you, Everclear, for joining us. And then Sean Paul, and then Marshmallow. By the way, Marshmallow, if you have somebody who's in Seattle or someone on the East Coast or Southwest, everybody knows Marshmallow, international star. I think he's flying in from someplace just to do this festival, a free festival. Again, brought to you by our very special partners. Thank you. And thank you for all the local acts that are coming aboard. That's going to be wonderful as well. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. And that's a song by Everclear. Wonderful. This portion of the program brought to you by our friends at Team Subaru, Treasure Valley Subaru. They have a good team there. And we love them. We love our friends at Team Mazda as well. We'll tell you a little bit about them in a minute. But, in honor of a past Boise Music CNC Music Factory. If this doesn't make you go, things that make you go, I don't know what is, but this is a council president in Plum Borough, Pennsylvania. This guy says he's not a man, he's not a woman. I don't know what he is. Let's take a listen.
It is June, which means it is also Pride Month. So happy Pride to each and everybody out there. I want to make sure I take a moment for every LGBTQ plus member of our community and all their allies. Please hear me when I say, I have long said, I am not a man, I am not a woman, I am a Delaney.
I am not a man, I am not a woman. What are you, dude? Are you down with Talrico? Are you a new kind of being? Are you Liberal Steve? Are you an alien? Are you an ET? Who are you? Think about that. I don't know. But again, this is at a city council meeting where the guy says, looking for a girl? I ran into a guy. His name was MCA. I said howdy. He said hi.
I have long said, I am not a man, I am not a woman, I am a Delaney. As my eldest child loves to say, I'm as non-binary as an elder millennial can get. I am the proud father of 3 genderqueer children, so to my LGBTQ brothers and sisters, I am here to remind you today, yins are not a political football to be tossed around. You're our friends, you're our family.
Yeah, now could you imagine if you said, I'm a man, I'm Talrico, and I'm not a Talfrico. And I'm married to a woman, and I have kids, and they're boys and girls, and that's what I recognize. They're binary, and that's the way it is. That's the way it's always been. The guy would be condemned. Instead, we have this guy. He doesn't know what he is, but he says he's a father. So if you're a father, you'd have to be a man. Now, I know you're going, Kevin, we don't know whether or not the war is going to continue. Kevin, we don't know whether or not we're going to win tickets to the Boise Music Festival. Kevin, what are the... Why are the people from Qatar or Qatar spending a lot of money? Kevin, what's the latest? We're going to get to those things, but sometimes, you know, it's an email, it's a conversation. You're just walking around going, huh?
Our neighbors, to our community. I stand with yins, not just this month, but every day in the fight to live fully, freely, and without fear. So this goes out there to anyone not sure about themselves, anyone who may be gender fluid.
Now, I'm not sure about myself, but I'm not gender fluid. And no, Sweet William, we're not going to play Man, I Feel Like a Woman by Shania Twain. By the way, if you're ever in a heavily urban area, let's say in the South, coming home from a gosh knows what, you're by yourself and you're playing Shania Twain while everybody else happens to be African-American, and you're the white guy playing Man, I Feel Like a Woman, you get a lot of strange looks. Not saying that happened to me, but it could. Always, always, always listen to talk radio. Not Shania Twain, not Man, I Feel Like a Woman, because quite frankly, she is a woman. This guy, I don't know what he's doing, but here's where it gets dangerous. Because he says you don't need to talk to your parents. Kids, you don't need to talk to your parents.
Not sure what their gender identity is. Anyone who's grappling with their body changing on them.
Man, I am grappling. I'm grappling with craving a cheeseburger even though I've lost 116 pounds. I'm grappling. Is that a condition? Hopefully that made you laugh. More on this in a minute. This is absurd, ridiculous, and this guy takes himself seriously, and we'll take a look at it next. First, 580 KIDO, let's get you to work. There appears to be no buzz for the Pride Month, as it usually used to be, and you have people that, you know, and why is that? Why is that? Well, Kevin, be careful now. I think Pride Month got canceled, and I'm not saying that in a bad way. Look, it is America. It is, you know, people can rejoice and celebrate. But when you had the drag queens reading to the kids, that went too far. And what has been used against the conservatives, the cancel culture, was used against the pride people. And when all of a sudden, and this was led by Dorothy Moon and other conservatives, when you have people threatening people, and I'm not saying threatening, but saying, hey, do you want to be a part of this? Sponsors backed out. People backed out. And in Idaho, now there are some states like, South Carolina, Alabama, Tennessee. They love controversy. This state, like North Carolina, not so much. People just want to have a good time. But you remember the massive presence that used to be in June. You'd have the mayor with her little antennas, little beanie things, I guess, running around and her pink outfit and that sort of thing, dancing and such. And now, not a lot of buzz. Maybe now there are 2 Pride months, right? There's here in September, and then they have the parades and such, but it used to be a lot bigger. Harrison Boulevard, right, used to have the flags. I don't think they have those anymore. And what happened? Sometimes you go too far. Now, this guy, he's very fired up, and his kid is a elder millennial that's non-binary. Look, I get confused. I can't even pronounce binary. I can't spell it, and I'm just thinking, can't we just go back to do you remember 10 years ago when the non-binary thing came out and we were like joking about it? Now it's a thing. And if that's what makes you comfortable, so be it. But don't put those vibes on us, right? But this guy at a city council meeting, that's like going to a concert and then getting lectured about something that has nothing to do with what you're there for. Just play Born to Run, boss.
So this goes out there to anyone not sure about themselves, anyone who may be gender fluid or not sure what their gender identity is, anyone who's grappling with their body changing on them. There may be some sort of intentional effort to make you feel bad about yourself, but Yin's got a lot of people that love you.
By the way, that's how they talk there. They don't say you, they say Yins. That's a Pittsburgh thing, Yins. Yins. I know if you're not from that area or haven't lived there, you just go, huh? No, it's not like the baby talk that you have in the Dakotas or Minnesota, but it's a very unique feature to that area, Yins.
A lot of people that support you, and you probably have more people who love you and support you than you could ever know. If you're struggling with gender identity, struggling with your sexual orientation, as a mental health professional, I urge you to find trusted adults to confide in. I hope that's your parents or your siblings, but that's not always possible.
Now, so here we have, again, this great vibe, this great new trend. Now it's from a city councilman, not only from educators, but everybody else, where they're condemning parents, where, let me see, the parents are the enemy because the parents are not to be trusted. Now, whose kids are they? The state's or the parents? It would be the parents. And here you have this guy who's sitting around with his multicolored jacket, like the guy, what is it, the Technicolored rainbow, rain jacket, raincoat, Joseph, and the Technicolored raincoat or whatever it is. And this guy is, lecturing people. Parents are good. Not all parents are perfect. I mean, is there any buzz about Father's Day? A lot of buzz about Mother's Day. Not a lot about fathers. Well, we love fathers. And, like we like to say around here, who's your daddy? Coming up, your chance to win tickets to the Boise Music Festival. Family 4-pack coming up. Before that, though, Tucker Carlson responding to the end of the war as we know it.
And as of right now, Iran controls the Strait of Hormuz. It did not when this war began. Now it does. And so what do we learn from this? Well, we learn that President Trump is not a great diplomat. He's overselling this like it's an all-you-can-eat buffet in Atlantic City. Oh, it's going to be the best. And so it's tempting to kind of lay all of the blame at Trump's feet. And on one level, it is all his fault. He decided to do this. Whatever pressures he faced, it was his decision. And he has oversold America's position in this. And he is, in some very real way, not good at this. But that would be to minimize the profound nature of this moment. What we're really learning is not simply that Trump is a spotty commander-in-chief and certainly no diplomat and obviously not a deal maker. If you announce a deal 38 times and it doesn't materialize, you're not a deal maker. What we're beginning to understand, unfortunately for the rest of us, are not just the limits of Trump, but the limits of power.
Well, I don't really know about that. I do know that at 580-5436, 580-KIDO, the president does not want to harm any more innocent people. And Mark Levin, highly critical of this deal as well. But we elected Donald Trump to make the call, did we not? More on that in a minute. Before that, let's tell you about our friends at Treasure Valley Subaru. A lot of deals going on this week at Treasure Valley Subaru, and you got to wonder, here's one of those issues when we're talking about what do you want in a used car? Well, what are the most popular pre-owned cars in Idaho? That's a good question. Where people believe that they can get the most value for their buck, if you will. How about this? Toyota RAV4, Toyota Corolla, Honda CRV, Honda Civic, Ford F-150, and a Toyota Tacoma. Is there one place where you can find all of those? Yes, at the Idaho Center Pre-Owned Superstore at Treasure Valley Subaru. Rob knows what people are looking for, so he sends his buyers to find the most in-demand vehicles and keep them in stock. And when you buy from the Idaho Center Pre-Owned Superstore, you can buy with confidence because every vehicle goes through the same vetting process. We like to call it the TVCSC. That's right, the Treasure Valley Service Center, for a complete inspection before it goes on the lot. Now, here's something else that's popular with pre-owned or used car shoppers. Subaru Outbacks and Subaru Foresters, and Treasure Valley Subaru has 29 certified pre-owned Subarus in stock right now. Every one of them is backed by a 7-year, 100,000-mile factory warranty, giving you extra peace of mind long after you drive away. So if you're shopping for a better used vehicle, start at Treasure Valley Subaru, the Idaho Center Pre-Owned Superstore, Treasure Valley Trucks, and the Treasure Valley Service Center. All together, one more time, everybody, at the Idaho Center Auto Mall and online at treasurevalleysubaru.com. Phone numbers here, 580-5436, 580-KIDO. Do want to remind everybody, well, we'll do it now. Caller 10, that family 4-pack is yours to the Boise Music Festival, where you can see Julia Cole, Everclear, Sean Paul, and so many more. Now, let's hope that this deal is good, is rolling, and quite frankly, long-lasting. Because wouldn't it be great to actually finally get to a place where, gas prices go down? The scary part about this with the Iranians is they don't really have a problem with, doing the bait and switch where they'll agree to something for a minute, and then just when you think the coast is clear, they like to disrupt the apple cart.
These people built the country, not the complainers. The complainers didn't build the country. These people built the country. Whether it's fishermen or farmers or anything else, guys like me, they built the country. I watch all these ingrates, they're always complaining. They didn't build anything. They couldn't build anything. Look at what's happened in Minnesota. Somalia, all these people came in from Somalia. They ripped off our system.
Yeah. Where are the Carnegies and everything else? By the way, the top story of the day is SpaceX goes public, and of course, people can't get enough of Elon Musk. And you have to think about the guy that's going to be if he's not the richest guy in the world, he's going to be the world's first trillionaire. And this is, and again, maybe I'm a contrarian, which I am, and a curmudgeon, but the ride just continues to go on and on and on. And, Dave Petzo and I, we talked about this last week or this week, but with this thing going on and on and on, you have to wonder, is there going to be a hiccup, or have we entered a new era where that's not going to happen anymore because it's too big to fail?
$75 billion worth of shares. We're expecting a share price of $135. Take it or leave it. That's going to be the number. Ticker SPCX. But the big headline, if all goes according to plan, CEO Elon Musk could become the world's first trillionaire. In addition, and this is important, some 4,000 employees will become millionaires, at least on paper, due to their stock options. The IPO offering is the culmination of weeks of planning and sales pitches to professional investors. It's what they call the dog and pony show.
The dog and pony show. How about that? At 580-5436, 580-KIDO, where people are going, oh, what a way to get rich. And yeah, it's nice to get rich. It's wonderful to get rich. And obviously, SpaceX is going to be big. And remember when Facebook came out, Facebook was what, $28 a share? Now that was years and years ago. Let's get back to the winners. Congratulations, Kelly. Kelly winning those tickets to the Boise Music Festival. Congratulations, Kelly. Let's get back to, again, a couple of other issues here, and this impacts Idaho. And it's an article from the Washington Times talking about Qatar. And years ago, it was a sparsely populated sheikdom under the loose influence of successive Islamic empires, caliphates, and regional Arab rulers. In 1916, the British took it over. By the way, this is from our friend Cliff May. If you recall, Cliff May has been around for years and years and years. But now, Qatar is spending a lot of money, big money. There's nothing illegal against that, but you take a look at just today, their population, about the size of Honolulu. Here, and you think about just a nation of only 330,000 people, and because of the oil and the natural gas reserves offshore, and it's the largest oil field in the world, or the gas oil fields in the world, it's huge. By the way, this was in 1971, the same year that the Brits granted Qatar their independence. Now, the Qataris they want to be your friend. They're going to have a big thing in Mountain Home. Look, I'm not here to condemn anybody. I'm just bringing you this article. Apparently, Nancy Acano, a senior research analyst at the Foundation for Defense of Democracies, saying they've spent, after spending a year digging through financial records, she's found more than $400 billion has been spent in America since 2000, approximately $1.2 million per Qatari citizen or Qatar citizen. They say that's a lowball figure since much of their spending is hard to track. Qataris have poured money into multiple sectors of our economy: real estate, sports teams, Hollywood studios. They spent almost $300 million on roughly 70 lobbying and public relations firms. If they are not here in this state, they will be, and I believe they are already. In addition, they buy gifts for officials, donate to think tanks, underwrite congressional baseball games, and pick up the tab for elaborate dinner parties for Washington's media elite. They've garnered goodwill at the Pentagon by hosting since 2003 the U.S. air operations at the LUD Air Base, which is the largest in the region. They were named a major non-NATO ally by Joe Biden. President Trump has not removed that designation, and 2025 extended U.S. security assistance to Qatar. Now, remember, they provided Big Don with the 747, valued at almost $500 million, that is being refurbished for use as Air Force One during his term. Now, is this illegal? No. In 2022, Belgian authorities arrested several members of the European Parliament on suspicion of accepting bribes to influence European policy. Why is this important? Let's talk about it next. Kevin Miller, 580-KIDO. We'll bring it up because I find it fascinating when we're looking at Qatar coming to Idaho. By the way, we have Cliff May breaking this down. Let's take a listen.
For centuries, Qatar was a poor, obscure peninsula in the Persian Gulf. Its people scraping by on pearl diving, mostly. Then came oil. Then came natural gas. Huge amounts, the largest offshore field in the world. Today, Qatar's 330,000 citizens, that's about the size of Honolulu, are among the wealthiest people on earth. And they're spending that money, a lot of it, in America. Natalie Ekenau of FDD, the Foundation for Defense of Democracies, has tracked more than $400 billion in Qatari spending in the U.S. since 2000, most just since 2010. That's roughly $1.2 million per Qatari citizen. Real estate, sports teams, Hollywood studios, nearly $300 million in lobbying and PR firms. Qatar hosts a major U.S. airbase, and President Biden named it a major non-NATO ally. Qatar recently gifted the Trump administration a $400 million Boeing 747 for a new Air Force One. Qatar has spent $8.8 billion infiltrating U.S. universities and is now offering K-12 curriculum on the Middle East with fringe benefits. And then there's Al Jazeera. Founded and funded by Qatar's ruling family, it has long amplified anti-Western narratives. Today, its content feeds directly into AI training pipelines, shaping what artificial intelligence knows about the world. None of this is necessarily illegal, but it's deeply troubling. Qatar's ruling family has sheltered al-Qaeda, supported the Taliban, backed Hamas, and remains the primary patron of the Muslim Brotherhood, a global Islamist network whose mission is to weaken America and bring down the West and establish a new Islamic caliphate. The Qataris got rich thanks to Western science and capitalism. What they're doing with that wealth is not just ironic, it's also strategic.
And then again, that's Cliff May from the Washington Times breaking this down. Now, why does it matter to us? Well, they're here in Idaho. Nobody really has brought this up. We had the mayor of Mountain Home saying, I welcome everybody. Good job, buddy. And it's a fascinating piece from the Washington Times because, again, Cliff May breaks this down. The schools that receive the most Qatari funding, and I believe that this will happen in Idaho as well. Cornell, Carnegie Mellon, Georgetown, Northwestern, Virginia Commonwealth, and Texas A&M, which it announced in 2012 that it will close its Doha campus. In other words, they have campuses in Doha. Qatar has set up partnerships with historically black colleges and universities. Commentator Dasmini Washington observed that the HBCUs are following the example of the president and bipartisan lawmakers on Capitol Hill. Take Muslim Brotherhood terrorist money because everyone else is. Wow. Pretty alarming. And then they're talking about in not only higher education, but K through 12, including the study abroad, trips to Doha, and suggestions for curricula following the Middle East. So, again, as Cliff May said, and we talked about this as well at 580-5436, 580-KIDO, quoting Mr. May, the Qataris are crazy rich thanks to Western science and capitalization, and they are using their money to support the Muslim Brotherhood, whose mission is to bring down the West. Mr. Al-Qurati, who died in Doha in 2022 at the age of 96, was quite clear about that. He argued relentlessly that Muslims are obliged to spread Islam until it conquers the entire world and includes both the East and West, marking the beginning of the return of the Islamic Caliphate. So, do what you must with that information. Traffic now at 580-KIDO. Let's get you to work safely and on time. Good morning, Dave.
Good morning, Kevin. From the Pacific Steel and Recycling Studio, traffic on the freeway really looking pretty good for Friday morning. Just finishing cleanup of a fire right near the Speedway out on Highway 16, so watch for that. And an accident working at 5 Mile and Lake Hazel. Vinson Lumber is your Cedar Factory outlet, saving you 70% off the big box stores and now more convenient than ever. Vinson Lumber, now open in Cuna. Online at vinsonlumber.com. I'm Dave Burnett. That's your traffic now on KIDO.
Appreciate that. Thank you, Dave Burnett. Phone numbers here, 580-5436, 580-KIDO. Coming up next, we'll go back to the war. It's funny. Here we have a showdown between our adversary for the last 50 years, and no one is talking about it. Well, maybe it's us and not them, or maybe it's them and not us. We'll find out next together. Kevin Miller, 580 KIDO. Not only on the Tube, but you can catch it on Spotify, Google, Schmotify, everything else available, every podcasting thing known to man. Hello to our friends in Denver and Jacksonville, Florida, the newest folks listening on our podcast platform. Appreciate you joining us on the right side as we continue to expand the reach of this Idaho-based talk show. Here's something you're not going to hear anywhere else. Happy Fidelity Month. Well, how did we get along with a national, eat a hot fudge sundae day? How do we get along with all those things? Well, anyway, we have these months and months and months and months. So what happens in June? We'll tell you about that in a minute. Do want to remind you, caller 10, you're going to win tickets to the Boise Music Festival. Looking forward to that as well. The Boise Music Festival coming up June 27th, caller 10, you're going to win a family 4-pack. For those weary of Pride Month, take heart. In vast swaths of the country, June is undergoing a refresh. In Alabama, June is Strong Families Month. In Arkansas and Utah, it's Fidelity Month. The official designation in Indiana and Tennessee is Nuclear Family Month. Wow. Oh, my. Somebody's ears are burning right now. Think about that for a minute at 580-5436, 580-KIDO. Happy Fidelity Month. In addition to red states, the Trump administration is marking it Title IX month for the second year in a row because they love women. Honoring the federal law signed on June 23rd, 1972 that bans sex discrimination in education. Quote, throughout the month of June, we're spotlighting the critical civil rights protections that women fought for decades to secure and the administration's vigorous commitment to protecting Title IX's promise for current and future generations of women and girls, said Kimberly Ritchie, Assistant Secretary for Civil Rights, in a June 1st announcement. Now, unlike the guy we had on last hour, she didn't mention Pride Month, but the message was clear. Rather than enduring Pride, Republicans and conservatives are seeking to shift the celebration from the LGBTQ movement to traditional family values. Representative Mary Miller, no relation but a Republican, not from Idaho but from Illinois, introduced a resolution designating June as Family Month, declaring that the House no longer recognizes Pride Month. Oh, my. Quote, by recognizing June as Family Month, we reject the lie of pride and instead honor God's timeliness and perfect design, she said in a June 3rd statement. If we truly want to restore our nation, we must stand united to protect and uphold the foundation upon which it was built, the family. By the way, if Al in Ontario is still listening, there's a great book. It's out of print, but it's called The U.S. of Incompetence. And it talks about how our society has been degraded, and it goes back to the blowing up of the family to begin with. And it breaks down industry, work, education, and it all goes back to the family being under attack. More on that in a minute. Let's go to the wild man in Kuna, Idaho, Eric, with Kevin Miller on 580 KIDO. Hello, Eric.
Hey, good morning. Yeah, you're right. I mean, I like that. Happy Family Month. I think that's what it should be. And we know what them pushing the pride thing and all this stuff. We know what it's all about. It's just like you said, it's about breaking down the family. And that's what they've been doing for years. And it seems like it's hyper accelerated in, European countries. I mean, they're progressively far ahead of us in that. And that's what it seems like their whole goal is to break down the family unit so there's less people having children. And then they open up the doors for all the migrants to come in and cause chaos, and then they have more control. That's kind of what it's about. And that's one thing I wanted to talk about. I think something's really being suppressed right now in the media is what's going on in Ireland right now. So there was a guy that was he was almost beheaded by a Somali migrant right in the middle of the street. And the people of Ireland have had enough with the mass migration. So they're in the streets with torches and pitchforks, and they've actually been lighting some of the migrant apartments on fire, and they're storming Parliament, and and it's really being suppressed. In fact, I tried to post something about it on Facebook, and I got locked out of it. So they're really suppressing it. That's what it seems like. You look it up. It's going on in Ireland, and they don't want people to know about it because it could spread all across Europe. People will just come out in the streets and say, okay, we're done with all these third world migrants, Muslim migrants coming into the country. People are done. And speaking of that, this is what you were talking about earlier about Qatar. I don't understand that either. Why is Qatar or Qatar, whatever the name is, why are they going to have their own little special section at our Air Force Base, Mountain Home Air Force Base? Why do they get their own special little section? Don't we have an Air Force Base in Qatar already? I mean, if we're going to help train them, we could train them over there. I don't get it. Why are we cozying up to them? At the end of the day, it's like you said, their ultimate goal is to take over. Well, you said something close to it. Their ultimate goal, it says it right in the Quran, to lie, to do whatever possible to get dominance. That's what they do. Look at New York City. They go out, and they take over 3 or 4 streets, praying in the middle of the streets, and when they have tons of mosques they can go to. So, we really need to reject Islamic immigration because people they don't get it because they come in and, let's face it, in their religion, it's okay to marry nieces and cousins and everything else, and they just outbreed, and then they take over entire communities, and pretty soon they're taking over the whole city, the state, the country. So, I think we really need to reject that. And I don't understand. I love Donald Trump. He's great and everything. But I don't agree with everything he does or says. I'm not like, I'm going to look at some of his decisions and stuff. And like we were talking about earlier, it's like he's real busy in Iran. But what happened to draining the swamp? Because we ain't seeing much going on there. We got.
Well, and look, you got Marjorie Taylor Greene who says he's been clapping back on the Republicans. What about Shifty Schiff? What about all the people that tried to put him away?
Yeah, that's what I don't understand. It's like they ran him through the ringer for 4 years of Biden. They subpoenaed him, they gave him a mugshot, and I don't know. It's a big nothing burger. And the funny thing is, this evidence of the fraud and Russian collusion and all that stuff, it's been all over. The evidence has been everywhere for years. It's, what's his name? Al in Ontario. I heard him mention me yesterday. I was laying in bed. I heard him, Eric and Tuna says this. And he's like trying to say that it's really hard for them to prosecute him and all that stuff. No, it's not. It's not. The evidence has been everywhere for years. They should have been on top of this right when they got into office, and here we are almost halfway through the term. We're coming up, it's a year and a half now. So, 4 years ain't very long. I don't know.
I would agree with you but the whole idea that, here we are, Eric, we're sitting here hanging out and all this stuff is going on and, where is everybody? Raul Labrador seems to be working, but is anybody else?
Yeah, Raul Labrador, he should be the governor or the president. He'd be a much better president. Same with like Ron DeSantis. Yeah, where is everybody? It's really spotty, isn't it? We got some really hard workers and government. We got some good representatives, but they're outnumbered by the bureaucracy and the dinosaurs that have been in there for, like your Nancy Pelosi's and Chuck Schumer's and all them, that have been in there since I was a kid, and I'm in my 50s, and what are they doing? Nothing. It's sad. I don't know what's going to happen. And we keep hearing, this Iran thing. I don't know. I'm not trusting it. I'm tired of hearing the president say, we got a deal. It's going to happen in the next couple of days. Oh, we're going to bomb them. Nope, we're not going to bomb them. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. Meanwhile, gas prices are going up to almost $5 a gallon. And the biggest thing that annoys me is we have all this technology and everything, and we're the number one oil producer in the world. But we can't produce our own gasoline from the oil we produce because it's too clean, because our refineries are set up for oil from Saudi Arabia, dirtier oil. Why aren't we retooling these refineries to produce our own oil? Well, why aren't we doing that? I mean, there's a lot of things that we could be doing. There's a lot of things we could be doing for this country to help it be self-sustaining, so we don't have to rely on so much global trade. I mean, we should be a self-sustaining country. I'm all for global trade and everything, but at the end of the day, if something goes wrong on the other side of the world, we should be able to produce our own energy and our own food and our own everything. I just think that it's time for the United States to butt out of the world. Just butt out of the world. Come on back to the United States and let's build our country. Because what good is us being over in the Middle East all the time doing for America? What does it really do for us? Not much. Just causing problems, basically. I don't know. I'm a white Christian nationalist, Kevin.
Oh, don't say that. People think that you are.
What's so wrong about believing in your country? They demonize that word. Like they demonize all kinds of words. It's ridiculous. What's wrong with believing in America being a self-sustaining country? What's wrong? Well,
we have 200. We have 250 years of people being, Americans. Shouldn't we be celebrating that?
Yeah, shouldn't we be celebrating that? We really should be. We should be focusing on America. And we have the resources. We have the technology. We have the manpower. So why aren't we using it? Nope, we're too busy buying everything from China and buying all our oil from the Middle East, and we're going to get in all these conflicts on the other side of the world, and we're just going to mess around with all these different countries. And for what? To spend a bunch of money. All our money's being blown anyway. Look at all the fraud and everything else. But here we are worried about the Middle East, when we got shysters in this country walking free, and another thing about Qatar. So if you look in the Epstein files, good old Bill Barr, he was buddies with Epstein. So there's some email exchanges from 2018, 2019 between Bill Barr and Epstein. And Epstein is telling Bill Barr to go to Qatar. Qatar's a great pivot. He's suggesting to use Qatar. Epstein to Bill Barr in this email exchange, which is kind of strange. And here we are, right? So I don't know. Yeah. I don't trust it. It's hard. And then these data centers. What is it with these stupid data centers? All of a sudden, in the last 3, 4, 5 years, they're just popping up everywhere, especially now. I mean, and there's a lot of people rejecting them, and they're going to use a ton of power. And then you got Bill Gates, good old Bill Gates. He's now partnering up with oil companies and everything else. Now, he was the one that was saying, well, we need wind and power, and we don't need to use fossil fuels and blah, blah, blah. But now he's changed his tune because of data centers. These data centers, I don't trust them at all. I mean, what is the point of these data centers? Oh, it's to power AI? Really? Maybe you guys need all that processing to spy on everybody, to turn off vehicles, to, they need ultra huge data centers. So the scary thing about AI is it used to be, they could tap your phone and there was somebody listening. Well, now AI listens. So AI can target code word, tag words and stuff like that. and then AI detects something, and then they act on it. So I think these data centers, I don't trust these data centers. We need to reject these data centers across the United States. It's like they use a bunch of water, they use a bunch of power. In Lake Tahoe area,
right?
Yeah,
exactly.
in the Lake
Eric,
Tahoe area.
Yeah, Eric, thank you for the call. Time for David DeHaas.
Paid for by Living Waters Wellness Center.
Who joins us now? Good morning, sir.
Hey, good morning, Kevin. Parasites. Everyone has them, some way more than others. You can't really avoid them. Symptoms can include grinding your teeth, itchy butt, certain breakout on your skin. Can be parasites, irritable, moody, can't sleep, vertigo, allergies, and especially cancer caused by parasites. But how do you get parasites? Well, all animals have them. Eat sushi, pork, you certainly have parasites. We start out so small you don't even see them. Maybe they ride in on that salad you ate. Maybe you shook someone's hand. So many ways to get them. But getting rid of parasites, not so easy. Herbs and zappers help. But after 35 years of doing numerous parasite cleanses, we have found it takes several tools, and it has to include our special on-demand machine and the colon hydrotherapy to flush them out. Our clients are always shocked and happy when they see the parasites exit and their symptoms go away. Learn more at livingwaterscleanse.com or call 208-378-9911. Then Sunday, 9 a.m. right here on KIDO, 580 a.m. Listen to the Whole Body Detox Show this week. We have a few of the people who will be speak at the biohackboise.com event on June 26th and 27th, a health fair where you will listen to 10 great speakers, including me, and 30 vendors at the Marriott Meridian. Nothing here is meant to diagnose, treat, or cure any disease. Seek out a qualified healthcare professional to see if cleansing is right for you.
David DeHaas, we appreciate you. Thank you.
Well, blessed weekend, my friend.
Paid for by Living Waters Wellness Center.
More of your calls next. 580-KIDO. 580-5436. 580-KIDO. Just one of those wonderful ideas where we ask you to give us your insight into a few things. Number one, obviously, whether or not the war is over. The president says it could be, it will be. The critics say we've heard this before. SpaceX blowing up, huge IPO. Some say that it'll be the biggest, most valuable stock ever. And yet, we get ready for the weekend. People are wondering about the World Cup and everything else. And what is the state of play? Well, before we get to Idaho, let's hear what old Pete Buttigieg has to say.
We have to deal with a Supreme Court that is now a rogue Supreme Court. To see them eviscerate the Voting Rights Act is to see them reverse some of the most important progress this country ever made. Wiping out black political representation, but also wiping out part of what actually is great within the complex American story.
And I remember Lars Larson talking about him. He's a guy that is a very odd duck. He was the mayor of South Bend, Indiana, a nobody. And he's buddies with our current mayor, Lauren McLean, or the Boise mayor, not my mayor. And here you have Buttigieg saying these irresponsible statements. And if you ever notice with the Republicans, the good guys, and yeah, not all Republicans are good guys, but compared to the loons, I'd say we're doing all right. Here you have Booty talking about a rogue Supreme Court. Well, Mr. Buttigieg, was it a rogue Supreme Court that ruled 5-4 in favor of gay marriage? Did you have conservatives saying, we're going to tear down the court, it's a rogue court? No. John Roberts? It really came down to John Roberts. It really came down to one person. Obamacare, 5-4, John Roberts, a Republican. And yet when these sniveling little loons don't get their way, we have a rogue Supreme Court. And unfortunately, they don't have the intelligence of Al in Ontario or the critical thinking skills of Tea Party Bob or Patriot Ray or whoever else, because they go, yeah, rogue court. According to whom? According to you? According to a decision that helped you and your husband Chaz or Chad or whatever your husband is, buddy. But because you didn't get your way, you didn't get your way in this one. And by the way, Congress can go back and reintroduce the Voting Rights Act. They shot that down because you can't do that on race, okay? And do we live in a racist country? Well, you ask the people in the Carmelo Anthony trial, and they will say yes. I don't know if anybody caught Buck Sexton yesterday, and this happens, unfortunately, all the time. Had a young lady on from Turning Point USA, and she was talking about being threatened. Somebody got punched in the face. Back to that old Beastie Boys song, Paul Revere. I grabbed the piano player and I punched him in the face. Piano player down. But this was a reporter, most likely sympathetic to these people. They don't like the media. They don't like this. And again, they think it's okay to stab somebody in the heart and to kill them. And all in the name of the race baiting, which is horrible. You know, the beauty of America, and I hope that you've experienced this, is that we don't buy into the divisiveness. We don't buy into the us versus them. I hope that you've been blessed in your life like I have, who have had the opportunity. I was at an eye doctor 6 or 7 months ago, and this young lady had the same experience that I did going to an all-black high school in New Orleans. Changed my living way of life forever. In Alabama, I didn't live in the suburbs. I lived in the city, all-black neighborhood. And I was taken in by a Palestinian Christian family. So you'd have the Palestinian Christians, which nobody ever talks about, that were driven out by the Muslims and other folks in Lebanon and in Palestine. And the Israelis drove them out as well. Beautiful giving people, and this white guy hanging out. One of my best friends during my travels in the South, beautiful African-American female who loved Jeff Gordon. And it's Alabama, it's the South, and people are going, what about her? So she and we would go to Nashville together, and I'd be walking around in similar attire to what I have now. I always wanted to be a khakis guy, but it was always shorts and a hockey jersey. Now it's shorts and a kickball jersey. And you really get to know people. And that's the vision and the beauty of America. You know, we can find something to get mad about all the time, or we can rejoice in living in the most beautiful country that God has ever blessed the earth to live in. You know, we can always be aggrieved. We can always be a victim. One of my favorite stories as we approach Father's Day, when the East Coast Millers were visiting, was me, my mom, and dad. I think Mrs. Miller was working, and we were going to go to Texas Roadhouse. You know, Texas Roadhouse, always a thing in Nampa, always a thing in Boise. And all of a sudden I go, well, you know, the Cracker Barrel, we haven't been there. And then my mom wants to go there. And Dad, what do you think? He goes, I choose to be a victim. Do you want to go to the Cracker Barrel? No, I choose to be a victim. And I love that phrase. And there are many people that unfortunately choose to be a victim. Unfortunately, we have the media that has this loathing of America. And you have this girl, young lady, woman, whatever you want to describe her as. I believe that she is a woman, obviously. This incredible interview yesterday with Buck Sexton on 580 KIDO, where she's describing being threatened for just simply reporting at the Carmelo Anthony trial. People want to destroy us. And Pete Buttigieg, shame on you, Booty. Shame on you, Booty. Bad Booty. Booty, you're a bad Booty. Here's a guy that, again, gay dude, married to a dude, has kids. I don't know who's the wife. I don't. And that's not a knock. I think a lot of us get confused. A lot of us old people. So, mayor of South Bend, Indiana, because he has a certain look, really never accomplished anything, becomes Secretary of Transportation. How's that working out for us? Wants to be the president. I think he moved to Michigan to run for something. And because he's so unpopular in his home state, he left. He's a carpetbagger, as they called it, post-Civil War. and he has the audacity to question a Supreme Court. I don't believe that I was on the air at 580 KIDO at the time, that when the gay marriage thing came out, when Obamacare came out, we didn't say it's a rogue court. It just doesn't go your way. So we'll talk more about that coming up, but come on, Booty. Be a good Booty. Don't forget as well, your chance to win tickets to the Boise Music Festival. Caller 10 can see Everclear, Sean Paul, and boom, 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 Marshmello. Let's get you to work safely and on time. 580.
You, Kevin.
Great to have you with us. A great week at Camp Rainbow Gold, Elizabeth?
It has been amazing. I'm actually home in Boise for a few hours, but was up there. We have the young kids age 6 to 12 that are fighting cancer on site right now. They're actually probably getting ready to load the bus and come home exhausted and probably pretty dirty as well. They had quite the week.
I bet they did. Can you describe that for us?
You know, these kids come up. We're a volunteer-run organization, meaning that the people that actually hang out with these kids, the counselors in the cabins, the activity staff planning the events, it's all volunteer. And it's just amazing to watch the kinds of things that they put together for these kids to have fun. We have all the typical bikes, and we had horses up and archery and those items. But I was sitting back reflecting some of the other things I saw, and they did things like a silent disco, making candy sushi. They did circus acts yesterday. It's just pretty incredible what our volunteers put together for these kids.
Well, really what goes into that? I mean, you plan year-round, so it's not just open the doors and here you go.
No, it's kind of funny. People ask us when camp's over, what do you do? And it's like we kick off the next year pretty quick. It does take a lot of planning, a lot of work, and some of the work and things behind the scenes that we have to put focus into, people don't think about, but it's about ensuring that the kids are safe, that we have the medical team up there ready and available to support the kids. With our new site, we're able, in our partnership with St. Luke's, we up there had several kids on active treatment. They are fighting right now, but we're able to have them on site because of our new medical building and our new site. So it really does take a lot of planning to throw these camps.
Well, Elizabeth, this isn't the last week. I mean, it's the last week for some, but don't you have some more people coming in?
Oh, yes. We just barely got started. So today, this round is off-site by noon, and by 4 o'clock, we have a new round of volunteers arriving. We do training with them through the weekend, and then the next group of kids, which happens to be our siblings, the brothers and sisters, ages 6 to 17, arrive around 2 o'clock on Sunday. And it's a new set of volunteers, so it's a whole new set of activities and different events planned for them next week. And then we do it again one more time for our teen camp, which is ages 13 through 17 of the kids that are currently battling cancer.
What type of people spend their vacations up at camp?
Isn't that amazing? That is one of the things when I'm asked about what drives my passion is the fact that day in and day out I get to work with volunteers that are giving up their time, their PTO, because our ask of them is big. They arrive starting on Friday and Saturday. They're disconnected from their home life. They're using their PTO. They're there all week, and they give everything they have to these kids. And it's just, I'm surrounded by amazing people in our community day in and day out. And they're just filled with love and giving and care and passion for these kids, and it's truly a beautiful part of this program.
Yeah, and it's almost too good to be true. What about the challenges? Because, again, you have people, you know, every parent wants to make sure their kid's okay, and regardless of their situation, they're always leery about going to camp. But you guys are, you know, you make the impossible possible, Camp Rainbow Gold.
we are incredibly blessed because of our amazing community that helps us make it happen. But of course, there's challenges. Our challenge this year actually has been having enough volunteers. Because of our new site, we're able to serve more kids. Well, that requires more volunteers. So that's been a challenge because, again, of the commitment I said. And then the parents, I mean, as parents, we are often weary of sending a healthy child off to camp. Sending their child that's battling cancer or just, within the last year or so, starting to come out of that battle. We have to make sure our partnership with St. Luke's and their doctors and nurses and that team is very strong, because I don't know that the parents would send their kids if those doctors and nurses weren't there, knowing that they have an eye on their kid and that if something is off, they'll catch it. So there's those challenges, and then just the normal ones any organization faces as a nonprofit.
Yeah. It's amazing, and year after year, you and others are so dedicated to this. This is really your life.
It is. It is. I'm blessed to have a job that I'm passionate about and that I love to show up to day in and day out. I know I sing all the roses and the happiness. I tend to focus on that, but of course it's hard. But man, when you see those kids' faces this week, and watching them have fun, I'll tell a little side note. They do something called ghosting at nighttime. They like to go out and they're with their counselors and they like to go scare the other cabins, and the boys and girls do it back and forth. Well, there's rules that you're not allowed to ghost the staff cabins. And in my last 15 years, no one has ever broken that rule and had the guts to come up and scare me and my cabin mates in our cabin until this week. And they did a good job. We screamed, we were scared, but it was one of the funniest, best moments to see those kids having so much joy coming and scaring us at our cabin. And it's just moments like that keeps us going, the laughter and the love. And of course, we retaliated back the next night and gave them a little scare. So it just keeps you going. It's the fun and the laughter, and it's a place here in Idaho that if you're not familiar with, I encourage you to come and see it and feel it, because it's pure and it's about lifting up and not tearing down, and it's welcoming, and it's truly something beautiful. And those of us that work there are truly blessed to have a passion job.
Yeah, what a beautiful campsite. So, for those of us that live in the adult world, Elizabeth, you guys actually live in cabins, no private rooms, no rooms. And
right.
It's like going to camp. And I hate to ask that dumb question at 580 KIDO, but when you're going, yeah, we're all in this cabin, I'm going, ooh, okay.
It is. I share my cabin with 3 other employees. It is like camping. There's not linens, or we're bringing our sleeping bags, our toiletries, and everything up. It is definitely an upgrade from the cabins we used to lease, because we actually have bathrooms in our cabins now. We did not have that luxury in the past. So we kind of feel spoiled right now because of that with this new site. But anyone that comes up and stays, you're on bunk beds with mattresses and no sheets, and it's an experience, but it's something I'll cherish forever.
Yeah, I think I would be at the Fairfield Marriott right down the road from you guys. I've stayed at that facility. Yes, so
does that exist?
Well, I think they had a hotel in Fairfield.
They do.
Yeah,
they do have a hotel. I've never been in it, but I do know they have one.
Well, with all due respect to the cabin living, it sounds like, having been there, it's 3-star compared to that. But Elizabeth, you and the folks at Camp Rainbow Gold, very commit bunk beds, really.
Yes. Ooh. Yep. Bunk beds with, what you'd see at camp mattresses, and all our volunteers are sleeping in that as well.
Yes. Hold on. Yeah, never mind the kids. I'm worried about the adults in the bunk beds.
Right. And these volunteers keep showing up and doing it, and same with the staff.
Yeah.
And that should tell people that it's about the kids. You can do anything for a week because these kids just grab your heart, and seeing them get away from those hospitals and just having fun and feeling accepted and laughing and not worrying about their cancer, just for a week, fuels them for a year.
All right, Elizabeth, anything else you'd like to share with us? We could go on and on, but we always appreciate the work of Camp Rainbow Gold.
No, I would just like to add my thank you to this community, Camp Rainbow Gold. We're at about 44 years now, and we would not be where we are without this amazing Idaho community, including yourself. So thank you so much for the support, allowing us to do what we love for these kids.
No, look, man, the bunk beds and the cab. I mean, we always talk about
you up there one day.
I'm with you. No, and I've been there, and we're trying to do the show from there. But I will tell you, hold on. We all talk about wanting to be young again, but when you say bunk beds and cabins full of people, I'm like,
Yeah, it's tough. I'll work a deal with you if you come stay overnight. I'll find you a private room.
Thank you. And then yes, I would be ghosted, and I'd be scared out of my mind there.
It would be fun.
Yeah. One final thought: if people would like to volunteer to help to donate, what can they do, ma'am?
The best route is our website, camprainbowgold.org. Everything is out there to volunteer, to donate, whatever, or just come learn more about us.
Yeah. It's camp season. Elizabeth, we appreciate you, and we'll check in with everybody next week and the week after as well.
Sounds good. Thank you so much, Kevin.
Thank you. Our great friend Elizabeth joining us from Camp Rainbow Gold, back in Boise, but going back up there. You talk about commitment. So instead of going to Kabu Schmabu, you go to Fairfield, Idaho, just outside of Fairfield. And there's a little dirt road, and it's a winding dirt road, and you either can't use Google Maps or Apple Maps. At least a few years ago, I ended up in some guy's private whatever. They weren't too happy about that, but I did find it, and all the local sponsors, St. Luke's, obviously, Corey Barton Homes, that built all these things, all these great cabins, and it's been a couple years since we've tried to broadcast from there, but what a great group, local, statewide, and helping the kids, and then the adults. How many of us would live in a cabin with a bunch of people for a week on bunk beds? Let's find out next. Ron Grant joins us now at 580 KIDO.
Paid for by Ron Grant, your safer money specialist.
And Ron?
Yes, buddy. Good morning. Good morning.
When's the last time you were on a bunk bed, Ron?
Oh, my God. I don't know, man. That was a long time ago. I was a little fella.
You're a little whipper.
I was a little whipper, yeah. But, that camp sounds so awesome. Oh, my God. It's. I think it would be nice just to go up there and hang out for a few days.
Yeah, I don't know about the cabins and all that stuff, man.
That's okay. It wouldn't be that bad. You were in the Army. You're used to that stuff.
Yeah, that was long ago and far away, Ron.
That's okay. Thanks for your service, too, buddy. Did a good job.
Well, thank you. Ron, when we're talking about money and service and servicing our money, protecting our money, that's where you come in. And, on one hand, we have the boom, but that means there's a bust. That could be trouble for people that want to protect their retirement, protect their way of life. Where do you come in, Ron? How do you protect people from possible recessions and depressions?
Well, that's a true reality, buddy. Back in 08 and 09, the market tanked almost 50%, and trillions of dollars were lost to 50 to 70-year-olds. And my clients and I were sleeping then, and we're still sleeping now. Babe Ruth had bought an annuity back in the Depression days. His manager had talked him into it. And, of course, when the 29 hit, there was a lot of his buddy players were in breadlines, and Babe was living a comfortable life because he had purchased an annuity 10 years before and had a lifetime income. And that's what I've done for my money, and that's what I do for my clients' money. If you run out of money, it's tough. You can either move in with your family, go back to work, get a second job, a third job, I don't know. But my clients and I sleep at night knowing, Kevin, that our money is 100% protected and we have a lifetime income that we can't outlive, and that's so important today.
Ron, how can people get information from you on that?
Educational information is on my website. There's articles to read. There's videos to take a look at. You can do that at your leisure 24/7, and you can email me from the site if you'd like. That's safermoneyspecialist.com. But, let's have a phone conversation right here in the Treasure Valley about how to protect what you worked hard for 35 or 40 years. Guaranteed income that you can't outlive. Zero stock market risk. But most importantly, Kevin, is that legacy protection for you and your family that you worked hard for. 208-660-1372 reaches me, and we'll talk about it.
Ron, we appreciate it. Thank you.
Appreciate you, buddy. Have a good weekend.
Paid for by Ron Grant, your Safer Money Specialist.
President Trump has the guts of a riverboat gambler. I mean, he's done everything right on this one. And, you have to actually go back to 1972 when President Nixon was whipsawed along by the North Vietnamese because the Paris peace talks were breaking down. So he said, fine. So we launched what was called Operation Linebacker. He put B-52s above Hanoi for 12 straight nights and days. And they finally said, enough of this. And they went back to the Paris peace talks. We ended the Vietnamese War. And I think President Trump has done kind of the same thing by putting massive efforts on the Iranians. And I said, I want to go to the negotiation table. I do have a concern, and I think everybody should have this concern. When you look at the Iranians, they are fundamentalist part of Islam. They are Shias, as opposed to the Sunnis like Saudi Arabia. And the Shias are fundamentalists, meaning they believe that the leader of the supreme leader, they all should be ancestors of Muhammad. But when you look at what they do, they believe in a thing called taqiyya. And taqiyya is their way of kind of negotiating and thinking about it. They look at infidels like you and me, and they say, yeah, you can lie to those guys. Don't worry about it. Nothing's going to happen. They never ran into a guy like President Trump. And I think President Trump has really brought pressure on him. And I think we'll see what happens now. Do they buckle under that pressure? I think they will. At least I hope they will. And if not, we'll be back at it again. Now, do I trust them? Absolutely not. I've lived with these guys long enough to know you can't really trust them. You have to play really hard to bring them to the negotiation table.
And we'll get your reaction next. Kevin Miller, 580 KIDO. 436 580 KIDO. Yes, it's time. I didn't forget. Caller 10. Boise Music Festival tickets are yours. Caller 10. You can win those tickets, that family 4-pack to the Boise Music Festival. Looking forward to seeing so many people there. And you can go for free. Nobody else is going to do that. So thank you for listening. While we're doing that, former Boise State University president Bob Kuster. You remember Dr. Bob? By the way, kind of interesting when you think about this. Boise State still doesn't have a president. Maybe they're just not going to have one. Maybe they don't need one. Maybe it's Mr. Dickey that's going to run the show. But he still writes for the Idaho Statesman, the Chicago Tribune, and, of course, Boise State Public Radio. A great way to spend your retirement, right? And, the Idaho Statesman, what was it, 3 weeks ago, a month ago, they had people on strike, and they were mad, they were angry, and all sorts of things. And the Idaho Statesman, they're in our building. And they're mad about AI. They're mad about their working conditions, and rightfully so. But when has the Idaho Statesman ever really been mainstream? And it's the old playbook, and some will say it's the old playbook for talk radio. I'll tell you what, Kevin Miller Show is growing. Kevin Miller Show's continuing on. Kevin Miller Show is so big it's on YouTube and podcasting and everything, everywhere else. App and everything, all sorts of things. Idaho Statesman, well, they still employ Dr. Kustra and all these other people that write these articles that bag on Republicans. Wouldn't it be great if they had somebody who actually would write about the good things, or really the real-life divisive nature within the state Republican Party? A big power grab going on there. You've got people lobbying back and forth. Is it going in the right direction? That'll be determined at the party meetings. That, to me, is a little inside, but I think, much more relevant than Dr. Bob just bagging on Republicans. Well, Kevin, you're going to read his thing? Yeah, I think it's worthwhile because unlike the liberal loons, we like opposing positions. And so he's talking about, what's the headline in this one here? Republicans extremists discover the consequences of going too far. Ooh. And we'll go to the last part of this article. It's not just a lesson in payback for staying too far from the center, straying too far from the center of Republican thinking. It's a lesson of how Trump perfected strategy of striking back at anyone who opposes him can be used by those who believe Trump MAGA policies. Man, this is a run-on sentence. Trump MAGA policies and the policies of Idaho wingnuts have veered so far right that they are now doing damage to members of their own party. Huh? I don't really know. By the way, Wally, congratulations, Wally. You won that family 4-pack. And he's talking about the primaries and saying that the extremists lost and it's about immigration. And when you take on immigration, so wait a minute. If you say that people here are in this country illegally, you're an extremist? According to the former president of Boise State, who, by the way, under his tenure, had the most successful run in college football history, but couldn't get them into a conference. Uh-oh. Nobody ever talks about that one. We'll address the loons next. Kevin Miller, 580 KIDO. As we roll on, do want to remind you, the Boise Music Festival just around the corner. Keep it here for your chance to win tickets. And speaking of tickets, we want to make sure that you go. So, again, not only here, but all of our Town Square media stations, Town Square Radio. If you see our friends out and about, stop by, say hello, and see if you can enter to win some tickets at some great local business locations. So it's fascinating. It's been a while since we've taken a look at the work of Dr. Bob, Dr. Custer, who used to run Boise State. He's retired. He still does something for Boise State Radio that is supported with taxpayer dollars. Also writes for The Statesman. And I go, why does The Statesman, that they're trying to remain relevant, have just one side of the story? And tell me if this reflects accurately your view of an Idahoan, a Republican, a conservative, a person of faith. There are at least two ways to check the extreme power of a Republican-dominated legislature that writes its credo of Christian nationalism, patriarchal and misogyny, bigotry, and whitewashed views of American history into state law. Either you do it with the governor's pen or you do it at the ballot box. Now, does anybody in Idaho outside of NPR talk that way or think of themselves that way? Christian nationalism, patriarchal, misogynistic bigotry, and whitewashed views. That's a lot of venom coming from the former president of Boise State, by the way, who worked for a university paid for by those people that he just attacked. And so his point in this is what happened in the primary. What did happen in the primary? A more certain way to reverse the impact of extremist legislators on Idaho state law is to throw the rascals out, as the old saying goes about those who misuse the authority of their office. In a recent May primary, that's exactly what happened in some places, as the Gang of Eight band of legislators was reduced to a denuded trio with 5 of their ranks defeated. By the way, there was a guy once, a brilliant guy, who told me, when you use big words, all you're doing is alien. Does anybody in Idaho know what denuded means? Why would you do that? And then he goes on talking about the pattern of pushback. Extremist Republicans made the mistake of taking on immigration as their favorite whipping boy. This reads like something out of the 70s. With just, I mean, with all due respect to Dr. Custer, does he like to live here? And maybe he just wants to be a talk show host and be a liberal talk show host. I mean, you see Dr. Custer, he's got a good voice, smart guy, but this does not reflect Idaho. We just had a person killed by somebody from Guatemala. We had a little girl killed by someone in the country illegally. And instead of having a real-life discussion, you know, the problem with the Gang of Eight, and I never really got that was based on the congressional, the real Gang of Eight, was they had no home. And maybe, I guess they were affiliated with the Freedom Foundation, which is not what it once was. And you have the power structure. From what I understand, you had both people powerful within the state party and powerful within the legislature did not like those 8 people. So now there's 3 of them. They had no home. They had no place. Nobody was coming for them in a good way. But to call them extremists because they wanted to balance the budget, to call them I mean, this is why people don't get involved in politics. This is why people will tune into the World Cup tonight. Never mind the Iranians and the war and everything else. Back to this point, though, because this doesn't reflect the goodness in Idaho. And look, Dr. Bob's idea, I mean, this is a win for him because I'm talking about his article, but if it's so bad, move back to Illinois. Go hang out with Pritzker. I mean, if it's that bad here, I mean, you're not writing this for the people of Idaho. I think you're writing it to get an award because this does not represent Idaho. So extremist Republicans made the mistake of taking on immigration as their favorite whipping boy. That may work for a saloon owner in Eagle. Huh? Who unsuccessfully challenged Little in a recent May primary and is far removed from bringing Idaho's breadbasket to the market. But it has little traction against rural Idaho. I don't know. Have you been to rural Idaho? I don't know, bro. Where generations of immigrants have worked the fields, enriching their communities and the state's economy. Yeah, but we're talking about people that are here illegally, that are committing crimes. We're not talking about good people that work within the system. And then he goes on and on about this guy, Todd Achilles, who's challenging Jim Risch. And I don't know if you've seen, was it on Franklin, the billboard, where we have independent Achilles or Achilles or whatever his name is, and going after Jim Risch because he's in his 80s. I always thought ageism was illegal in this country. We don't mention that, do we, Dr. Bob? So he attacks Senator Risch and everything else, saying a different day could be dawning for Republicans. What? We're going to go back to rhinos? Republicans in name only? And I love this. Billionaires may fund the campaign coffers of extremist Republicans. Billionaires like George Soros fund liberal, loony, leftist groups as well. But that balance will never happen at the Idaho Statesman, unfortunately. A lot of good reporters there. We may agree or disagree with them, but there's a lot of great reporting. This is not one of them. And so now he has the audacity to use the Reverend Wright line. Now the chickens are coming home to roost. Both guys from Illinois, right? As Idahoans begin to understand how Republican office holders like Risch, slavish to Trump's policies and captivate to Trump's primary threats, are doing serious damage to those who counted on the GOP to act in the best interest of Idahoans. Senator Risch is going to win this in a walk. I don't know. I know when Jim Risch is home, he's working in his pickup truck. And he's ranching and doing all those things real men do. Not having tofu and a latte at Boise State Public Radio. Kevin Miller, 580 KIDO.
You're talking about my least favorite Republican of all time, Bob Custer. And for the KIDO listeners who may not know, I remember when Bob Custer was my lieutenant governor in the state of Illinois. I also remember when the governor at the time was George Ryan, who got indicted, his campaign on Ryan for governor, the feds indicted as a criminal enterprise. Let me explain that again. If the Friends of Brad Little campaign thing was deemed a criminal enterprise, that's what happened to George Ryan. I was part of that FBI investigation. I was a witness. And, unfortunately, they used my testimony. And, I had to leave the state for my own health and safety. Bob Custer was the number 2 man there. The scandal became known as Operation Safe Roads. There were lots of things that went wrong: bribes, corruption, kickback. There were 5 DMV facilities in the state of Illinois that were selling driver's licenses, commercial driver's licenses for sale. No habla español, no problem. They provide you a translator to help you pass the test. It got so bad, they had to do a recall, and the FBI finally came in when somebody died in Wisconsin. They were able to finally come in and go after the governor and bring him down, and he went to jail for 6 counts of homicide. The number 2 man at that time was Bob Custer. How the hell do you not know that this was going on? You were there. You're the number 2 man in the governor's office when one of the greatest frauds ever in the history of the station was happening, and then you're clueless? You must be one of these skin suit conservatives who are either don't believe in anything or just out to lunch, a feckless coward. And when the state of Illinois needed him more than anything, he could have stepped up. He could have been a man. He could have been a Republican. He could have been a personal principal, and he could have saved the Republican Party. He probably could have saved that state from where it is right now. But he ran like the little bitch he is to be a president of Western State, Kentucky, whatever college. And then he comes to Idaho and he lectures us. He lectures me. Give me a break, Bob. You have no credibility. You're a complete fraud. You're a coward. You're a wimp. You're a loser. And, the statesman, you're doing yourself for many people in Illinois who remember this. And there are a lot of us here because the state fell because of cowards like him. The statesman, by having him on, it's an embarrassment. How can you be that clueless? How can you not know, Bob? How could you be on the ticket with this man? And why can't you just resign in shame and admit responsibility of wow? It's like the Gang of 8 and these other people too. I'm not a conservative. That movement's failed. I'm a restoration expert, and I'm trying to bring about reform. That's what I'm about. And part of why they're failing is that, look, we've been told for over 50 years, we're conservative, we're doing this, we're doing that. The ideology failed. You guys can't even conserve yourself. It's time for something else. And just like on the Democratic side, the liberal thing, that's gone too. These are progressives, and they keep progressing. Bob, you're a loser. You're a coward. You're a wimp. Go away. Quit lecturing us, and just please shut the hell up. Any questions?
Well, tell us how you really feel.
Look, like I said, now for the people who are listening right now, did you know any of this about Bob? Like, how can this man have any credibility on this issue of good governance and reform or whatever? Just like you said, Bob, if you know so much and if you're so great, get your ass back to Illinois. Run for legislator again. Or run ready to be governor. You seem to know so much. Go back, fix it, bud. Quit, whining and complaining from somewhere else when you had a chance. You were there. You were in the governor. You were the number 2 man in the governor's office, right? I don't recall you testifying about him. Did you not know this was going on? Were you totally clueless? Come on. You could have been this restoration ticket to save the Republican Party, but you ran because you're a coward. Anyway, thanks, Kev.
Thank you, Chandler. There we have it. The comments, views, and opinions of the callers and the host do not really represent the callers' views and opinions of KIDO Talk Radio, its staff, its management, or its sponsors. Nobody told me to say that. I just thought it was appropriate. But Chandler there laying the smackdown on Dr. Custer, and really comes down to, you look at this article and you read this article, and who's an extremist in Idaho? I don't really see an extremist. Last time I talked to Dr. Custer, it was during a podcast with Tommy Ahlquist years and years ago. And, we talked about the media and Boise State and all, but you get a lot further along when you're trying to work with people, but to attack people and everything else, it just doesn't seem right, if you will. I'm looking at it and I'm going, it just seems very odd to have so much venom for people in this great state. I don't believe that. And again, that's what the libs do. If they don't like you, then you're an extremist or you're anti. I guess I'm an anti-weed person because I don't believe that marijuana should be legalized. I guess I'm an anti-immigrant person because I want the laws to be enforced. I guess I'm an anti getting hit by a car driven by someone who's not a citizen, because if anybody does that in America, there are ramifications. I guess I'm an anti-people driving without insurance and not in the country legally, and the employers that employ them not being held accountable for their actions. Or the police, because they've either been told or it's their policy not to apprehend people that are here illegally. Is that extremism to you? It certainly isn't to me. And as I said, as I was sharing this article with you at 580-5436, 580-KIDO, I'm looking at this going, his whole premise that the people lost. No, they didn't lose. Basically, there was a lot of money by people that got tired of the conservatives. And the only reason why the conservatives last time around were victorious is because you had big out-of-state money coming in backing them. This time around, I don't believe it was that way. And you take a look at, we like to talk about this all the time, the Jim Guthrie race, where you had the 5 constitutional officers, or 4 of the 5, endorsing a senator from eastern Idaho, thousands of dollars spent in this race. You have the challenger, a veteran, a great guy. I've never met him, but he seems like a great guy. The attorney general endorsing him, and you could see the divisions within the Republican Party. Nobody from the party really talked about that or discussed it, but, for all of us that were there that saw this thing, it played out, whether it was right or wrong, how it should have. But to name call people, that's what I don't really get. A somewhat different day could be dawning for Idahoans, where when Idahoans reject the extremism that Idaho Republicans, elected officials have either encouraged or turned a blind. What is that? I mean, there's no specifics. And you don't have to be a writer per se. You can make a lot of inflammatory accusations. But tell me what's extreme about the Idaho Republican Party. They want a balanced budget. Now, the mayors can say it's extreme that because they're now raising taxes because the House Bill 389, and they're mad at the Speaker of the House. And we'll see whether or not the Speaker can maintain his speakership. That's one of the big things that will be decided next January, not this January. But the fact is that we talk about, and again, this is why it's an opinion piece, not a news piece, but you call people wingnuts. And then you say that Mark Fitzpatrick's campaign is a referendum on the wingnuts. No, at least Mark Fitzpatrick decided to do something. No one else. The smart money was not to do anything. And I can remember our man Dylan going, oh, he's going to do well. No, he wasn't. And the only time you really had that was when you had our man Russ Fulcher. And the establishment vowed that would never happen again. Let's go to Senator Christy Zito joining us now. It's been many, many years. And as we like to say, welcome home on 580 KIDO.
Hi, Kevin. Can you hear me?
Loud and clear. Great to have you on. Good morning.
How are you?
Well, young lady, to the shock of some, you and I are both still here.
I know. Can you believe that? I know. Yeah. You know it. I heard you talking about the Gang of Eight and about the past election and Mr. Custra and his opinion. And, I just thought I would call and answer any questions that you might have. And and just discuss the situation if you would like, because it has been a long time, and I've missed visiting with you, and it's good to hear your voice.
Well, we're always big fans. I don't know, your reaction to Dr. Custer saying that everybody's an extremist. And, I know you're a very good person. You're a true believer. It never ends well for true believers, but you continue to fight through a lot of professional and personal challenges, because it's not easy to be a legislator. It's not easy to do these things, and you had a lot of money thrown at you.
Every time I've run, Kevin, I've had a lot of money thrown at me, and I have been very, very blessed. I think I find it interesting that, people like Custra and other people, in reference to the Gang of Eight, and we do have a home. We are the recognized caucus of the state's Freedom Caucus Network, and the name Idaho Freedom Caucus should have been ours, but there was a conflict there with another group that chose to not give it up because, in their opinion, their words, there's value in the brand, which there is. So, we kind of ended up, someone called us the Gang of Eight, and it just kind of stuck. So we decided rather than to muddy the water, we would just go with it because, we were a nationally recognized caucus. And I think that I find it interesting when people like Mr. Custra chime in on this situation. If we were ineffective and if we had nothing to offer and we had nothing, we weren't making a statement and we weren't making a difference, why spend millions of dollars to take 8 legislators out of office? But we were, and we spoke to the people, and we stood up for the people, and we stood up for freedom and righteousness and all of those good things that make Idaho, Idaho. And I just, it's unfortunate, but we're not done, and Idaho's not done. And I believe in the people of Idaho, and I believe in our country, and I believe in the principles that have made us great.
Well, like I said, you are a true believer. So what are the lessons from this primary season? Dr. Custer saying that everybody's an extremist if you're not a liberal loon.
Well, I don't think there's anything wrong with being extremely loyal to your country. I don't believe there's anything wrong with being extremely loyal to the principles of the Constitution and the founding documents that got us where we are. Mr. Custra, I'm trying to be kind here. He's entitled to his opinion. He's very entitled to his opinion. But, what is wrong with loving your country, and what is wrong with honoring the Constitution, and what is wrong with honoring your oath of office and representing the people who send you there, and not big business interests? Now, am I anti-business? Not at all. But I think the thing that hit most of the members the hardest of the Gang of Eight this election was the immigration situation. And, we've heard the dairy industry come in and say, well, we can't run the dairies without illegal help. That was testified to right there in the State House. Well, my grandparents came here, and they did it right. They did it legally. My grandmother didn't read or write her native language. She didn't ever learn to speak English, yet she raised 8 children after my grandfather passed away. And she'd only been in this country like 20 years, raised 8 children, paid for a farm, and did it all without social assistance, no welfare, no social security, not speaking the language. She didn't demand anybody to, translate for her in Albanian. And she did it all legally, and she was successful. And I think that's the point. This is still the land of opportunity, but come here and do it right. Don't enter this country illegal already. And for those who give shelter and care and financial support to those who are here illegally, I think you're breaking the law. And now I think that was the biggest issue, because we took a stand on that because it's the right thing to do.
Senator Zito joining us here, 580 KIDO. What was it like, though, with the Gang of Eight to call out the immigration system, to propose legislation that would help and protect Idaho families and then have the dairy, the hospitality, the construction, the development, everybody but the ACLU come after you guys?
Well, I think it's very telling where we are as a country that the rule of law is not near as important as the bottom line. And there are ways, I have relatives who farm, and they use the H-2A program, and I know the dairy industry will say, it doesn't fit us and it doesn't work for us. So why not put those millions of dollars that they spent against those of us who believe in the rule of law, put all that money into helping to change the federal law? And I believe it has been. I think I read just the other day that the H-2A program has now been changed to accommodate like the dairies and these different industries. And the point is still this: there are ways to do it legally. You don't have to use illegal help. But you don't have to pay illegal help like you have to pay people who come in on the H-2A program. When folks come in on the H-2A program, you have to give them decent housing that gets inspected. You have to pay, I can't remember what the minimum wage is. I think it's like 13 something an hour. And then you have to pay all your other employees the same wage that you pay your H-2A workers. You give them a phone, transportation back and forth to their country. You can't just bring them here and give them $5 an hour and work them 24 hours a day. There are guidelines and rules that have to be followed.
Sure. Were you surprised, though, at the reaction when you guys decided to take this on?
No. No, I wasn't surprised. We're talking big money, Kevin.
Well, then why do you do it when the big money's against you?
Because it's the right thing to do.
Well, like I said, still a true believer.
Well, I am. I've just stated before that I am a true believer, and I believe that this is the greatest country that's ever existed in the history of the world, and it started that way, and it should remain that way because of the rule of law. But when we don't have that, we see the pandemonium and the chaos that is happening in other countries and in our country. And that's, we can't survive that way. If we're not a country of law and we're not a country, that follows the law that's set forth. And remember, what was his name? Radio talk show host. And he would always say borders, language, and culture.
Oh, Michael Savage.
Michael Savage, yes. Anybody's welcome to come here, and anybody's welcome to do everything they can to succeed because the opportunities are here. But come here, want to be an American, and that was something else I learned from my grandparents and my dad, that, we came here to be Americans and not to come here and change America to what we left. And I think that's another important concept as well.
Well, then, a final thought. Where are we in Idaho now, post-legislative session?
I think we need to be very careful when we look at the next legislative session and as we approach this, Kevin. And it's not that it's a purity test or anything else. It's about what's right and what's wrong. If you're talking about immigration, I'm assuming, come here, be legal, follow the necessary steps, do it the right way, because this is the greatest place in the world to be. Remember when the boat people would, I don't even remember what year it was it during the Clinton administration when people were getting on, those little boats and risking their lives to come to the United States from, I can't even remember now which country it was, but I can remember on the news seeing the little boats out there on the ocean, and people were risking their lives to come to this country for a better life because the opportunity is here. And that's why my grandparents stayed here. My grandpa didn't intend to stay here. He was going to work and go back. So this is the land of opportunity, but let's do it right. And as we approach the next legislative session, there was a bill, I can't remember who sponsored it, and Senator Guthrie held it in his desk that would be tougher on immigration in the state of Idaho. And it didn't ever get a hearing in the Senate.
Well, it'll be interesting to see what happens in the House.
Yes, it will. It will be, all of the legislative sessions are interesting. Every one of them are different, but it's always worth it.
I'll take your word for it.
Thank you, Kevin. Well, hopefully, we can visit more during the session and, maybe we can do some more updates and stuff. We used to do that a little more often than we have, just recently.
Look, we had you on when you were in office, out of office. We'd always love to have you. You don't have to wait for the session. You always are welcome here, ma'am.
Well, I really appreciate that, Kevin. I'm so grateful for you and for what you do and your voice of truth. And we just can't ever give up on defending truth and righteousness. Thank you, Kevin. Have a blessed day.
You as well, our great friend, Senator Zito. Kevin Miller, 580 KIDO. We'll take more of your calls. Appreciate Senator joining us. It's been a while. Always, always, always love having her on. Let's go to the phones, and it's TPB, Tea Party Bob, joining us now at 580 KIDO. Hello, TPB.
Well, hello, Kevin Miller, and a great show today. Listening very carefully to a lot of the comments, and thanks for having the lovely Christy on today. I think she's one of the best legislators we have. And listening to her conversations with you gave me pause to consider. We often hear criticism of President Trump's decisions on the war and second-guessing commentary from the press and people like Tucker Carlson. And I have to stop and ask myself the question, why has America survived for 250 years? And I always come back and remind myself of our founders like James Madison, whose wisdom crafted our Constitution and Bill of Rights. And in my opinion, it is our First and Second Amendments that are the glue that holds our country together. We have three branches of government, but believe that freedom of the press is the fourth branch, which provides oversight that no elected body could provide for itself. And I will say that sometimes the fourth freedom has been used for nefarious purposes, such as propagandizing the populace, but we still allow this fourth branch to prevail. We see a lot of that here in Idaho with some of the press that we get on a consistent basis. And I believe that our First Amendment is the stronger documented case for being central to America's survival and stability. Our founders recognized that the speech most in need of protection is never the popular kind, and a government that can silence the critics doesn't stay accountable for very long. Every major reform, from abolishing slavery to suffrage and the labor movement, began as an unpopular speech, and established power wanted to suppress it. It was the First Amendment that kept that speech legal and relevant long enough for it to persuade change. And it's arguably the central mechanism allowing our democratic republic to the ficability to correct its own worst errors without collapsing. The Second Amendment is a bit more complicated. If you read Alex de Tocqueville's writings in the 1830s, he warned that modern democracies tend to shift toward what he called nonviolent soft despotism, or a nonviolent tyranny of gradual dependence on government that erodes self-reliance and civic responsibility, which we have probably seen here for the last 60, 70 years. The argument for the Second Amendment is that armed citizenry produces a spirit of reliance, making self-government actually possible. And our founders believed citizen militia was a genuine military counterweight to government power. But in an era of nukes, counter-surveillance technology, and drones, and a professional military, this belief is not quite legitimate with a determined federal government. And I believe it is the First Amendment working with the Second because of the government fears armed citizens and a free press. Free assembly and free elections put multiple overlapping constraints on the tyranny. And remember, the First and keep the Second Amendment, and you have armed people with no reliable way to organize, communicate, or persuade each other. Remove the Second and keep the First, and you have a democracy found in most functioning democracies in the world. And we see what's happening to them in Europe. bottom line, the First Amendment is arguably the single most important structural guarantee of our liberty, and the second provides a meaningful, philosophical, and practical backstop to it. And this brings us back to our founders' reasoning that free people must be able to speak, organize, publish, and if necessary, resist our government that can silence or disarm its citizens is no longer a republic. That's what I'm going to leave you with, my friend, for the weekend. I really appreciate
that's a lot to ponder there, buddy.
Well, Christy is somebody who I revere. She has been one of the fighters in our legislature for years, and if we don't have people like her, we will have nepotism, even in this state that we live in. Anyone who doesn't believe it, just take a look at what's been happening for the last, 20 years and how things have changed here in Idaho.
An unsung hero. I would agree with you on that.
Well, like I said, I hope you have a great weekend, and thank you very much for giving us an opportunity to speak out and be heard.
Now, are we going to see you next week?
There's a good chance you're going to see me. You may not want to, but a good chance you will.
Why would you say I wouldn't want to see you?
I don't know. I've been pretty argumentative this last week or so.
You're argumentative every week.
I wouldn't say that.
It's how you and I communicate.
I see. Okay. Well, that's why we have the freedom of speech, right?
Yeah. No, it was interesting to hear her thoughts on the Gang of Eight. I mean, you cover this a lot more than I do. What was your take on that? I mean, you talk to everybody, whether we agree with people or not. I mean, you're a good barometer on that one. What did you think of? And then, I have Dr. Custer there piling on, but I'm like, hey, man, if you disagree with someone, you call them a name. It just didn't seem like many of his articles. I don't know who he's writing for, but not the people of Idaho, when he's talking about being an extremist and stuff. And I'm like, okay, so you had a group of lawmakers that really tried to do the right thing, and in the end, the establishment, maybe others, got them. Your take on that?
There's always a gotcha. When you have the freedom of the press and you have people who are willing to express their views, you're going to hear all kinds of stories. I mean, just look at how there was a barrage of press on the immigration issue here in Idaho. Nobody seems to want to talk about the fact that 5 of our constitutional officers stood up and backed a senator who is as far to the left as you can get, who votes 80-some-odd% of the time with the Democrats, but they backed him. That tells me that there's something rotten in Boise, and it's not Mayor McLean. It sits in the State House. And if we don't change it soon, we are going to be turning into another Denver and Colorado. Believe me, it's in the making. There's too much power in our government and too many people who use it and abuse it. So Christie's 100% right. I mean, they took advantage of 8 people who actually were making moves to change what was happening in our legislative process. They don't want that. They don't want change. They want the status quo because that's what benefits them the most. And as long as they can keep it with the money they have, they're going to continue to do it. Cut off the money or bring somebody in that has more, and you might actually be able to stop it.
Tea Party Bob, thejumpstatepatriot.com. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, my friend. Have a great day.
Phone number's here, 580-5436, 580-KIDO. More coming up next. Stay with us, 580-KIDO.
Stephen A. Smith, he always lectures against Trump derangement syndrome. I don't know what's happened, prompting the president to call out Stephen A. in a pretty scathing Truth Social post. My message to Stephen A., he'll join us in a minute. It is simple. Stephen A., welcome to the club. You're not the only one to have a president go after you or a candidate go after you again and again and again. Just a little reminder. Let's take a trip down memory lane, shall we?
In 2012, Latinos voted in record numbers. The next day, even Sean Hannity changed his mind and decided immigration reform was a good idea. Rudy Giuliani said, Putin is what you call a leader. Mike Huckabee and Sean Hannity keep talking about his bare chest, which is kind of weird. With respect to Sean Hannity, I didn't know that he had invited me for a beer. His opinion of me does not seem to be very high, but I'm always good for a beer. I'll put Mr. Burgess up against Sean Hannity. He'll tear him up.
All right, here with reaction to all of this. He is the star of First Take on ESPN. He is our friend. I will not ever back off that. Stephen A. Smith. Okay. You tell Democrats. What's up, man? Well, it's good to see you. You tell Democrats all the time. Don't go, taking the bait and Trump derangement syndrome. And this is what you did. He has been a Knicks fan like you his entire life. He's gone to Knicks games for decades and decades. The Knicks have a shot at the championship. You said if they lose that game, it's his fault. Then you blamed him. They lost. Now, now you're saying if they lose the series, you're going to blame Trump. You have lost your mind if you believe that.
I did not say that last part because they were down by 29 last night, overcame it in historic fashion.
Oh, you did before the game.
They got their mojo.
There we have it, our friend Sean Hannity. Catch him today at 1, going toe-to-toe with Stephen A. Smith. How ridiculous, people blaming the president for the Knicks winning and losing. Before that, though, we haven't talked about our boy Plattner lately. Let's take a listen to him. Jake Tapper asking Democrats, if you believe the allegations against the Platt, why are you backing the Platt?
Let's turn to the Maine Senate race. Last night, Graham Plattner won the Democratic primary, despite multiple scandals, including that New York Times report last week where 3 of Plattner's ex-girlfriends accused him of unsettling behavior and at least in one case physically threatening behavior. He denied anything physical. You actually campaigned with Plattner. You were a big supporter of his. You've been clear that you believe these women. So I guess 2 questions. 1, why are you still backing him if you believe these women? And 2, just to head you off at the pass, Republican Senator Jeff Flake wrote an op-ed in today's Washington Post, and he said Democrats are, quote, just wrong to think that these things, meaning Democratic legislative priorities or a check on Trump, that these things matter more than character.
Well, I do think character matters, but Graham has been pretty open that he served 2 tours of duty. He had post-traumatic stress disorder. Now, there are a lot of people who have post-traumatic stress disorder or serve, as you know, Jake, who don't have toxic relationships and don't make misogynistic comments. But he says that he was in a dark chapter of his life. He became an alcoholic, and there were years of acting in ways that he really regrets. And he asked for grace and redemption, and he thinks he's a changed person, a transformed person. I believe him, and I believe that he is now focused on ending the wars that he fought on, the war in Iran and other wars, and he's focused on giving people health care and creating economic equality. But it's for Maine voters and other people to assess him and see, is he a changed man, and has he taken account for his past?
And there we have it. The only thing he didn't throw in was Susan Collins is so bad. Susan Collins is one of these people that has to be stopped because she voted for that rogue Supreme Court. You ever seen Susan Collins from Maine? One of the most unassuming people you'll ever meet. But no, we have to vote for Plattner. And like I said, the Republicans, they had a chance to back somebody, but in Alabama, they decided to boot themselves from backing this failed, flawed Senate candidate and conceded it to the libs. Now, a couple years later, they came back and they won the same seat. It was for an expiring term of Jeff Sessions, but they didn't want to be part of this. And here you have the Democrats that are backing Plattner because apparently they want it more. And really, going beyond, I guess we could say that the word for the day, at least in this hour of the program, is extremism. And if you have just been tuning in, we were talking about extremism as defined by Dr. Bob from the Idaho Statesman. And Dr. Bob used to be the head guy at Boise State, and Chandler, very emotional about Dr. Bob, Senator Zito about Dr. Bob. And now you tell me what's an extremist. Is an extremist saying we should have, as Michael Savage pointed out, borders, boundaries, and culture? Is it extreme that if you get hit by someone that is not here legally, they should not be allowed to continue on? They should be put in jail? How many of us really worry that when we have our car insurance, it's enough to cover not only liability, but, gosh, anything else? But, again, I go back to, is it extremism that our friend Glenn had his car hit by someone, had to chase him down, called the police? The police said, oh, yeah, just more of the same, and the guy got in his other car and left. Then had more incidents, allegedly. We lost a young girl on Harrison Boulevard. And the mayor declared we should stop speeding. We lost a husband, a father, in Caldwell, 35-year-old, to a Guatemalan man. Is that extremist to say, what was he doing here? Was he supposed to be here? Is it extremism? Is that being an extremist? Because I guess everybody's an extremist that wants law and order and traditional American values. Or is it extremist to say, we're going to blow up the Supreme Court? We're going to bring in Plattner. And we know that Plattner's a bad Plattner, and he's going to be he was a bad person, but he was going through the dark times. And was he a dark Plattner, or was he just going through a dark time? But we have to make sure that we stop this. We have to make sure that we stop the rogue Supreme Court. Why? Because it didn't go your way. And those of us that are adults understand the ball doesn't bounce your way all the time. You can't win all the time. Life is tough. Except if you're a Democrat. I would say those are examples of extremism, including this.
Tonight, leaders at the Justice and Homeland Security Departments are putting a spotlight on the hundreds of thousands of missing children who crossed the border during the Biden administration. The Justice Department says some 425,000 unaccompanied kids came into the country during that time. At the end of 2024, 300,000 were still missing. Authorities say criminals posing as sponsors brought some of those kids across the border, sexually abused them, and exploited them for financial gain.
This is a vast problem, but it's something that we're extraordinarily focused on and will remain focused on until it's completely fixed, addressed, and remedied.
The Justice Department is charging 3 illegal immigrants from Guatemala living in Ohio for smuggling children.
Sure. So at 580-5436, 580-KIDO, the Republicans are the extremists because they don't want kids, unaccompanied kids, being taken over by predators. That is kids being abused, sexually abused, exploited for financial gain. You know, I don't know if we want to use the word corrupt or incompetent, but let's just say this. How much of that is going on here in Idaho? I hope none. Hope it's not going on anywhere in this country. But how many of us turn a blind eye? Those in power, those that live in the cul-de-sac of comfort, and just say, well, I don't have to worry about it. But you do. And when one side labels the other extreme for wanting to stick up for kids, well, we have to continue the fight. So appreciate everybody joining us today. Don't go anywhere. We've got the Clay, the Buck, America's top-rated talk show right there, followed by our man Sean. Lars will bring you home. Live talk this afternoon, as always. Coming up, we're going to be at the Snake River Stampede, the Buckaroo Breakfast, Monday and Tuesday of next week. Our return there after a year sabbatical. We'll be there hanging out. I will appear to be very frustrated because it's a difficult show to do because it's very loud, but it does really benefit the future farmers of America, and they are our future. So if you're thinking to yourself, man, I don't want to go into work on Monday, go in late. go out to the Idaho Center. Kicks off at 7. I think it's still $5. And enjoy some food. Enjoy some sausage, some eggs, and really enjoy the slack. And you don't have to be a rodeo person. I'm not a rodeo person. I just love going there, and it's kind of like old home day for all of us. We hope to see you there. And again, if we don't protect and restore and strengthen our traditional Western values, well, you know what the libs are going to do. And that's not extremism, that's patriotism. Good day, God bless. Kevin Miller loves you. And once again, true believers keep the faith.
There are two types of business owners, those who are busy and those who want to be busy. Toast is designed for both, with tools to keep you humming and help turn grind into growth. That's how you turn busy into business. Toast, built for busy.
Today on the pod, we're talking to Megan, trapeze artist and Scratchers enthusiast. So, Megan, what do you like about playing Scratchers?
Well, they're easy to play when I'm hanging around.
Oh, okay. Like when you're relaxing?
No, like when I'm hanging on the trapeze. I swing upside down, then do a quadruple somersault, all while playing Scratchers. Watch this. Ta-da!
Unbelievable.
I know, right?
Scratchers from the California Lottery. A little play can make your day. Please play responsibly. Must be 18 years or older to purchase player claim.